It's 8 o'clock, time to go over the agenda for the Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting for December the 2nd. Mr. Wood, is it 8:30 we got a business proposal property tax appeal?
Yes, sir, and Alan Lumpkin will be here to go over that with you in detail. But basically, you have a company that has medicine dispensers out at the hospital, and because they have a computer in them, the company wants to argue it's a computer. We argue that it's medical equipment, and the distinction on that is that if it's a computer, it's a 5-year depreciation schedule on the equipment. If it's not, it's a 10-year depreciation on the equipment. So that impacts the amount of taxes this company pays, and they're doing this across the state where they have installations. So, but that's the gist of it, but Alan will be here to explain in more detail for you.
Okay.
On that.
Mr. Mayo, you gonna handle the implication?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Doherty, you gonna handle the pledge?
I will.
Thank you. Then Mr. Parker, you will handle the election of chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
We have one, Mr. Chairman. I think all of you have this budget amendment. This is one that David Madden asked me to add yesterday. They just got this in. They have received additional funds by the Division of Public Health, Women's and Children's Health Immunization Branch. This is for additional immunizations, $13,837, and then so there's an increase on the revenue side, and there's the increase on the expenditures for that. So it's a pretty standard budget amendment from the Department of Public Health.
Okay. And the approval of the minutes. Mr. Wood, if you would take it from here and kind of go over the rest of the agenda,
Okay.
please.
Of course, we're going to introduce Tommy Burns as the assistant manager. And I think all of you met Tommy yesterday, if you haven't already. And then we're going to introduce Crystal Geddes as the new Development Alliance president. And then we have some employee service pin awards. And Marcia, you've got all that lined up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. After that, at 9:15, we have two public hearings. The first is a proposed amendment to the Wayne County zoning map to rezone part of two tracts at 163 Longs Plant Farm Road from light industry zone to airport zone to allow the operation of a cemetery. Of course, this is for the state veteran cemetery that we've had the groundbreaking on. The second one is the proposed emergency services cost recovery ordinance, which we introduced at the last meeting, and you scheduled the public hearing for today. I think everybody has that in their packet, and I believe we discussed it at the last meeting, but I'll be going back over that and have Mel here as well to go over that with you.
Question, please.
Yes, sir.
We'll be able to go ahead and vote if there's no problems here, because I don't want to hold up that cemetery and Daniel Construction doing their work.
Yes, on both of these, Bill, once the public hearing's over, you can go ahead and vote
Okay.
on both of them.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the public hearings. The appointment committee, I'm assuming there's some appointments. Joe? No.
This will be restate.
Okay, okay. Unfinished business, this is a motion to approve the 2014-15 Wayne County Fire Service agreements. I gave you copies of 3 different agreements in here and a cover memo. Just want to go over that again. We have about roughly 24 departments that are within our county that we have what we call our normal fire service agreement with. And just to refresh your memory is on these new agreements, we're including the mutual aid agreement. It used to be we had the fire service agreement, then we had a separate mutual aid agreement. And the thought this time was, let's just have it all in one agreement. So we had merged the mutual aid agreements in with this. That's why one of the reasons these contracts are bigger than what they've been in the past. But as y'all know, we've been negotiating these probably over the course of about a 3-month period, I guess. And so they're ready to go. We have, the second subset is we have 2 of our departments that we contract with are actually the town fire departments, and that's Fremont and Mount Olive. And so those contracts are slightly different. And Mel will be here to go over those slight differences with you. And then the third subset is we have 2 that are actually outside the county, but they cover a small portion of Wayne County, and that's with the town of Princeton and also with the town of LaGrange. And as you know, they're on either side, either border, east and west of us. So when we do that, we'll have new agreements with all of our fire departments that cover us. This should finish up the fire service contracts for this year, puts in place the new agreements. To our knowledge, everybody's in agreement with them. And I just want to say particularly that I want to single out Mel and Brian Taylor for the work they've done, and also the chairman, because he's been in I believe, every meeting we've been in with the fire departments as we've negotiated these things out. So, and being a veteran of the fire service was certainly helpful, because he sees it from both perspectives.
Could I ask the question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
On the 2 municipalities that are providing some service.
Right.
Princeton and LaGrange.
Yeah.
We are reimbursing them at the same tax rate that the volunteer fire departments in Wayne County are receiving. Is that correct?
In fact,
Yeah. Yeah,
I think
because
it's less.
well,
I
the
think
the properties are taxed. You're actually correct, because the properties are taxed as being in our fire district.
That's right, okay.
And so those fire districts are, whatever is in that fire district is what we pay to them.
Paying
and
into LaGrange and to Princeton.
That's right. But you
Something
set,
similar
you
to
set
what
the
we-
tax, you set the
Right,
tax
right.
rate, because they come to you with that.
Right.
So it's actually very similar to what we proposed with Goldsboro.
Right. And that was the reason for the question,
Right.
because that, we've got a precedent there where we actually were just taking what our taxes, we were assessing and paying to the municipality.
That's correct.
Okay.
And keep in mind, we're in the same situation with some of our departments, because we've got departments that's got district in Lenoir County, Johnson County, Sampson County, Wilson County. So it's the objective is to make sure that everybody's got fire protection.
Right.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
thank
right.
you.
But that's typically how you do it.
Sure.
And that's an excellent point. That's why we were going with that proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So that should wrap up the fire service agreements. At the last meeting, we pretty much wrapped up the Pinewood dissolution. And so I think those are the two major things we had with our fire departments that needed to get done. And again, I want to commend Mel and Brian on that as well, because this dissolution was not simple. Having to divide property among 5 fire departments, negotiate all that out. Then we also tried, as you know, to negotiate with some of these unincorporated islands surrounded by Goldsboro, tried to negotiate those out, but that didn't work out. But it also took time to try to do that. The next thing is a motion to approve reallocation of North Carolina's Eastern Region funds. I had told you at the last meeting we'd have this before you. I'll go over that in detail at the 9 o'clock meeting. But essentially, we're moving a few monies around because some of our cities are not going to be in a position to take some of the money they had previously requested. And so we want to redirect some of that money, and the bulk of the redirection would be towards our sewer because of the costs we're going to face, as y'all know, on the Genoa line with those repairs that we're looking at there. On the consent agenda, you have the health department has some patient fees, eligibility and bad debt write-off policies. I think you could see that those were very minor policy changes, but state law requires the health department to have a policy manual, so those have to be in writing. And you saw those changes were in red ink there. They are very minor in nature. The second thing is the Wayne Pregnancy Care Center lease. As I said in the memo to you, when we acquired the property that you turned into the Veterans Affairs Office and the Office of, Aging Office, the building in front, you also took that over. And that is leased out to this Wayne Pregnancy Care Center. That lease expires at the end of February. They've been asking us for a renewal on that, and obviously they don't want to wait till the last minute to know if we're going to extend the lease or not. So my recommendation to you is a 4-year extension at the same $1,400 they're paying now.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Payne.
Are we covering our cost, or, because I know she didn't raise it, and there were some responsibilities that we have for the facility, and they have in terms of maintenance and
Right.
that kind of thing.
Right.
So you anticipate that we'll be able to cover our costs?
Yes, I think so. I don't see that'll be a problem.
Okay, that was the only question I had. I looked at that, and that's why
Yeah.
we didn't change it any.
We didn't, and I think part of that is due to the fact that, they are struggling somewhat, and I think it'd be a real hardship on them to do that. I
Okay.
think you take it, I did take into the nature of the business and that sort of thing.
Mr. Doherty.
If I could inquire on that, I tell you, this is a nonprofit organization.
It is a nonprofit
Is that correct?
organization.
And they provide pregnancy advice and so forth. Does Wayne County contribute anything toward their budget in any way? I don't think so.
we do we, Pam?
We do not.
I don't think so, but I wanted to verify that. So here we have a nonprofit providing a valuable service, paying rent,
Right,
with no taxpayer funds going into that
Right.
organization. Is that correct?
that's correct.
I wanted to be correct before I
Yeah.
described it that way. And
That's
I think that's good.
Okay.
That's really good.
And so, taking all that into account, I felt like a 4-year term was reasonable and no escalation in it, just leave it as it is.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Parker has drafted the lease and everything, so we've been working on it, I guess, for about a month or so, getting that taken care of. Okay. The next thing, we have two things dealing with our community development block grant. The first is award a bid for the demolition clearance of Peggy G. Harvey House under the County of Wayne 2011 Community Development Block Grant. This is our Catalyst project. And the second one goes hand in hand with it. It's for the same person. It is to award a bid for a single-wide manufactured home. What has happened here is, in a nutshell, and you have fairly detailed memos from our administrator, Dave Harris, what has basically happened here is that the original plan was that we would renovate this mobile home. When it reaches a point where I believe it's 50% or more cost to renovate, then the federal government takes the position that's a waste of money, we ought to just put in a new home. It's more cost effective to put in a newer mobile home unit. So that's what you're doing there. So the first part is to demo the unit that's there. The second one is to award a contract to install a new one. And again, this is all CDBG federal money. There's no county money involved in this. Okay. Anybody have any questions on that?
Clear as mud.
Well, my only caveat is it is the federal government. So, okay, number 5 is we need to establish a public hearing on December 16th, 2014 at 9:15 a.m. to receive public comments on levying an assessment for streetlights in Streetlight District Number 5, Ashby Hills. This is the first one that we've received in. It's been referred to Marcia. She's working with Alan Lumpkin in tax to verify the petition. We think there's someone somewhere over,
I have a report if you,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Lumpkin is here, and we worked yesterday afternoon
all right,
and verified that there were 88% of the property owners had signed the petition.
excellent.
Whoa.
And as y'all know, state law requires 67%. So this one will be ready to go.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend that we take that item from the consent agenda and put it under unfinished business. I think there's going to be maybe some questions
Oh, okay,
and some additional comments
okay.
on this. if
You
it's
want to put
okay.
that under new business or unfinished?
I think it would be unfinished because it's an ongoing process, right?
Yes.
Could we do that?
Yeah.
But all we're doing is just establishing a public hearing, right?
Yeah, but I'm going to have some comments, and I can do that on the consent agenda if it's okay.
Well, we can pull it, I mean,
Okay, that's
we
fine.
can pull it, we'll put it as number 3 under unfinished. Okay. And Borden and I are in the process of reading through the exact process. Now, this did not require a public hearing by law, I believe.
Right, but you said that you were gonna have.
But we wanted to do that in the interest of transparency, and this is the first one we've got. There was an initial question, were we gonna wait till all of them came in? The answer is no. As folks come in with them, we'll process each one individually, because at this point, it's an individual issue about whether a neighborhood wants it or not. So, under new business, y'all had requested a presentation from Dewberry on the Wayne County Interchange Utility Study.
Finally.
Yeah, they will be here to give you an update. It's not the final, but
Oh,
they're
it's
gonna
not.
but they're gonna give you an update.
Okay.
But they are behind schedule on it. Number 2 is a motion to approve Grayson's Creek Section 1 final subdivision plat. Connie, is there anything you particularly want to note there?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Then we have a motion to approve invocation and pledge of allegiance resolution. This was one that came, I forgot what county it was.
Lee County.
Lee County.
Lee County.
Yeah.
We all got a copy of that, and I think y'all had indicated you'd like to have one on for you for discussion and possible approval. Marcia has worked that up and has that ready for you. On number,
Wait, let's, hold up just a minute. On that one, when I got the resolution that Lee County had done, I forwarded it to the other commissioners, and, Mr. Mayor responded back that he felt that Mr. Parker needed to draw us up a resolution.
Okay.
And this is, I think this is gonna send a statement along with, if enough counties, does this, and I understand this is a nationwide effort, and I felt like that we need to be a part of it, and thanks, Mr. Mayo, for making that recommendation that we have a resolution.
Well, could I say,
Certainly.
I just feel like it just solidifies what we're already doing. We're already having an invocation and pledge of allegiance, and it just solidifies what the board's already done.
All right, move on.
Are you gonna have somebody read it?
Mr. Mayo, you want to read it?
Yes, sir, I'll read that.
Okay. All right.
item number 4 is a motion to approve purchase solid waste road tractor and dump trailer from sale of solid waste surplus equipment. You have a memo from Tim Rogers and also from me talking about that. Basically, we've got some equipment we're ready to sell that's surplus out there. And as you know, that's run as an enterprise fund, so any revenues and expenditures in the solid waste fund stay in the solid waste fund. So what he's requesting is to use some of that money to buy some equipment he needs out at the landfill. And in reviewing it, I think it's valid, and I'm recommending that you approve that. So the money would not come from appropriating fund balance or anything, it would come from the sale of that surplus equipment. Then we have number 5 is a motion to approve resolution declaring the official intent of the Board of Commissioners to reimburse expenditures by the county for a new misdemeanor detention facility from the proceeds of a tax-exempt financing. As y'all know, we talked about the schematic, you approved the schematic design at the last meeting. You also, we talked about how we were going to finance it using a 20-year financing instrument. debt instrument, and that we were going to bridge those 4 years until another debt was paid off. So we had discussed all of that. The 20-year financing is what we're talking about here. Under state law, if you pass a resolution stating you're going to reimburse yourself any expenditures on the front end before you go to the bond market for this debt instrument, you can be reimbursed those expenditures. And since we're going to have some of those expenditures, because we owe we're starting to get bills now from the architect, obviously, because he's done the schematic design and everything. As those bills continue to come in and as we hire engineers to do some of the geotechnical work and things, we want to be in a position to repay the county out of the bond proceeds to reimburse those expenses. That's what this is about, and that's all it's doing. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, and the last thing is budget amendments, and Pam has those. And again, we do want to add this one that we talked about on the Public Health Department for immunization. And with that, I think we have a few minutes if you want Pam to go ahead and start going over the budget amendments before the 8:30 meeting.
We'll just wait. We'll just wait.
Just wait. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dodd.
As we all know that, and we've heard, Pinewood Fire Department has closed its doors, locked its doors. And yesterday, the News Argus editor wrote an editorial, and she put that in better words than I could. And I would like to, at some point on the agenda, to read some excerpts from yesterday's News Argus editorial honoring Pinewood Fire Department. Is there a place that we could add that to the agenda?
Yeah, I would just do that under other business.
Well,
Other business
could I add it under other business
or new business,
new
either one.
business? Could I,
Yes.
under
Want to
seven?
make that number 7 is new business? I mean, other, yeah.
Joe, you might want to take up some of your comment time.
I already had some other items on my comment time. I didn't want to go for 3 hours. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Then at 10 o'clock, we had the public comments, limited to 4 minutes. Then we had the county manager's report, Board of Commissioners Committee reports and comments. Do we need a closed session today?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, well, we're not gonna have time to have it now because it's
That's
close
right.
to 8:30.
That's right.
So we just have to work it in when we can. Is that all for the agenda?
Yes, sir.
All right, they're gonna take a 2.5-minute break.
Well, we can get some more coffee.
How many you want to put in?
I already had some other coffee.
Between now and 9.
And then this 8:30.
Oh, yeah.
Property tax
Okay,
appeal.
okay. We should be able to do an investigation after that.
Well, we might
Sleep like that.
Yes, I'm trying to get this is John Bell, hearing officer. How you doing? Hey, Charles, how you doing? I'm trying to get a telephone number for
Alan running out of books here.
We can take it all the whole day.
Keenelandville, it's in Keenelandville.
I'm in favor of And I tell you what, we put a short on my cousin.
I mean, everything's. County commission meeting right now.
This does a heck of a lot more than the regular exit. It's comparable to my CNC. I don't understand, but, you know, We're trying to get tax incentive.
Yeah, the probation. Trying to get that, Jones guy, I can't think of his name, first name.
I told him, I got him before he could see me, Wayne, and he said, forget it.
That's right, I got you. We watch CSI also.
237. Hey, appreciate that.
All right, what we'll do.
It's 8:30, Board of Commissioners is back in session. Mr. Lumpkin, if you would, present the, business proposal tax, appeal.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, earlier in the year, you actually set as a Board of Equalization and Review to hear appeals. Anytime that board is not in session, you have the right as Board of Commissioners to hear appeals. We have a personal property appeal today to come before you. The representative for the company that's appealing could not make it today, so I'm actually going to present what they supplied to us, and I will tell you our side of this too. I gave you a little packet there in front of you. The top letter is from them. What this boils down to is a personal property appeal. Businesses in the state of North Carolina have to list their equipment and machinery and stuff like that for tax purposes. This equipment is listed at cost and depreciated annually based on a state depreciation schedule. Depending on what kind of equipment it is, the expected life of the equipment is how it's depreciated per a schedule put out by the state. This particular equipment, if you'll flip over quickly to the second page, what this is a medicine dispenser used in the hospital settings, and it has a computer on top, and basically it's supposed to be regulated where you put the patient's name, social security number, whatever number there to access their particular medicines. It's like a safeguard. It controls what medicine is dispensed. It tracks everything that's taken in and out of the cabinet. This, according to the Ryan Group, which is represented the Care Fusion Group, they're thinking this should be categorized as a computer, and which has a 5-year life. And because there's a computer involved in this, I think this should be a computer equipment. We disagree with that, basically, and the state also has given us an opinion that this should not be a computer. This is machinery equipment. It's equipment, hospital equipment, which has a 10-year life, which expands the life of the equipment. I'm going to give you just a few minutes to briefly read over this, since you have not been privy to the letter you're looking at right here before. If you just take a few minutes and just read over that quickly, if you will, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Let's see, this is the Department of Revenue. I'm looking at, let's see, 1, 2, on page 4. The major category, index page 10 up at the top. This is from the Department of Revenue State. This is what you go by?
Yes, sir. They put out a manual every year, a depreciation schedule. This is what all the counties in North Carolina are required to go by.
Looks like to me that it's pretty clear as to what the state rules are. You've got it highlighted there. Medical and dental equipment includes veterinary, medical, and dental laboratory equipment.
Well, it's even better on the next page, on the highlight.
Yeah, this manual is actually cross-referenced to, all throughout, it's alphabetical cross-reference. The next page actually is hospital. It also says a CTN also.
Yes.
And then the third page I supplied for you actually breaks down what a data process equipment, actually the definition, I highlighted one little excerpt, and it pretty much states that computers associated with other equipment are not computers. Basically, it's aids the equipment to do their job, but it's not a computer. It's aiding other equipment. It's aiding in the process. But it's pretty cut and dry to us too, but, the taxpayers do have the right to appeal. Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman,
Mr. Page.
is there an IRS opinion on this as well?
No, this is strictly state law. This is
Okay.
this is North Carolina state law. It's depreciation. Because some counties don't list personal property.
So it wouldn't be any different, say, a machine shop, it's got a computer in it, but
Yeah,
it's no different than.
That's the other point I was gonna make, is that some of these medical and dental equipment machines are as complicated, and you can program about as many things as you can in a machine shop piece of equipment.
True.
And look where we're located. It's clear that we're under a 10-year life. Appreciation.
That's the point I was.
Yeah.
So it's comparatively speaking, since I have a computer on a 2000 Expedition I have, and it's no longer running as of today, if that were the case, I would not need to have to pay any more taxes on my Expedition.
That's a pretty good example, yes, sir.
That computer, I think, has caused it to
It's over
be
10 years.
ineffective.
And I would love to have a 5-year depreciation on mine.
I think we need to get out of this public hearing.
I'm not quite understanding why they are appealing when it's very clear here.
Well, they have actually, excuse me, this is Ms. Diane Rouse, our business personal property supervisor. She has been in contact with these people and the state multiple times. The state has actually been in contact with this particular tax representative group, and they just seem to disagree with what they're saying. But what happens here, depending on your ruling here, they do have the right to appeal to the state Board of Equalization Review, so they have another avenue, and maybe at that level, maybe we can pass a resolution, because whatever precedent set at the state level, it pretty much affects all 100 counties.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor.
Did I understand in our discussions last time we were talking about this, that this company is nationwide? And that there's a possibility that other states may have a different setup than we do?
Oh, very possible.
Is that possible?
Very possible. All states have different rules. Like I said, some states don't even list personal property like we do here in North Carolina. This is North Carolina specific. I
Right.
can't really answer for other
Right.
states, but that's
Okay.
true, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, my suggestion is, where can we add it into the agenda, and can we go ahead and act on this today?
We can actually do it now, I think.
Yes, you can do it now.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Don't we need to close out the public hearing?
Well, I said a public hearing, but it's not.
It's not, okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we deny the request for this property to be deemed as a computer and uphold the ruling of our tax department.
I have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Any other discussion? If no other discussion, all in favor of Mr. Darty's motion, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, we've got 15 minutes. You want to go into closed session, or have we got
Yes, sir,
time?
we can. Yes.
Is to consult with an attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege, to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries, to instruct the body on the terms of a contract to purchase property, and to consider a possible employee, the qualifications of an employee.
Okay, let's go into closed session for 15
made that
minutes.
motion?
We need a motion to go to closed session.
Mr. Pate made the motion. All in favor, should sign of right hand. Motion carries. Would like to ask everyone that has cell phones or pagers to please put them on silence or vibrate or cut them off. And also, anyone that's making any presentations today, ask you to come up and speak clearly into the microphone so it can be recorded. Mr. Mayo, invocation.
Yes, before we pray, I wanted to read something to you. I had the privilege of attending George Cornelius' funeral last week. As you know, he passed away, one of the icons of Wayne County. I noticed on the back of the bulletin that B.H. Stanley has written something that I think is very appropriate to all of us in our lives as we live it day by day. Let me read this to you. He has achieved success who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has gained the respect of intelligent men and the love of little children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who has left the world better than he found it, whether by an improved copy, a perfect poem, or a rescued soul, who has never lacked appreciation of earth's beauty or failed to express it, who has always looked for the best in others and given them the best he had, whose life was an inspiration, whose memory a benediction. That is something that all of us should keep in mind as we live our day by day. Let us pray. Father, we're grateful, Lord, for this time that we can come together to conduct the business of this county. Father, we ask that as we conduct this business, that we not forget these words that I just read, that we are here for a reason. You have put us here for a reason. And that, Father, we might do what you would have us to do. Father, today we are thankful that we live in this nation called the United States of America. And most particularly, Father, that we live in this county of Wayne County. Thank you for blessing us these years and bless us in the future. These things I ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Let's all stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Mr. Darcy? Mr. Parker, we'll turn this meeting over to you to handle the election of chairman.
I'll accept nominations for chairman of the board, Wayne County Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Parker, I nominate Commissioner Wayne Aycock to continue to be our chairman for 2015.
Are there any other nominations? If there are none, the nominations are closed. All in favor of Mr. Aycock, please raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Mr. Aycock, congratulations. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker, and thank you, board members, for putting the confidence in me to be chairman for another year. I do appreciate it. We need to elect a vice chair now. Do I have any nominations for vice chairman?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Doherty.
I'd like to nominate Ed Grimardi as vice chair.
I have a motion on the floor for Mr. Cromartie as vice chair. Is there any other nominations? If no other nominations, it's a pleasure to the board. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries. And again, thank you, board, for putting the confidence in me and Mr. Cromartie in running the board. Any adjustments to the agenda, Mr. Wood?
Mr. Chairman, we just have the one budget amendment, which we discussed at the 8 o'clock meeting. This is from the Health Department, and Mr. Madden is here if you have any questions on it. But basically, they've gotten in $13,837 more for immunizations from the state, and they want to spend it for that purpose. So the revenue is coming from the state to cover all these expenses.
Okay. All right, before we move on, I would like to make a few comments on the accomplishments of what the board has accomplished in the last year, if it's all right with the board. Hold on, let me get my right notes. The Board of Wayne County Commissioners in the last 12 months has approved 205 budget amendments, 23 resolutions, 13 proclamations, 71 committee appointments, and 22 consent agendas. I think that speaks highly of the board. Some of the other items the Board of Commissioners approved, 2014 North Carolina Association of County Commissioners federal legislation issues ensure the budget reforms and sequestration do not result in unfounded mandates for the counties. Maintain funding for education and workforce development. Protect county volunteer fire departments during the implementation of the Affordable Health Care Act. We also supported Seymour Johnson Council, signed an agreement between the City of Goldsboro and Wayne County Friends of Seymour to work diligently for the Seymour Johnson. Hired 3 school resource officers with the funding from the Wayne County Board of Education. Also approved Seymour Johnson Air Force Joint Land Use Study. Approved the purchase and erection of 2 new radio towers to enhance the radio system. Also passed a resolution agreement to economic impact study for the 70 and 795 highways. Borrowed a little over $500,000 from the North Carolina Eastern Region Trust Fund for Pacific Economic Development projects. Renovation projects for Wayne County Public Schools, the Central Tenants area, Spring Creek Elementary School, and Charles B. Aycock High School. Also worked closely with the City of Goldsboro on the Reedy Branch Greenway project. Hired Mr. George Wood as interim county manager, and subsequently as county manager. RFQ architectural service for the preliminary design phase for the proposed agricultural center. Accepted the recommendations of interim county manager George Wood on the most cost-efficient method of design bid for Grantham Middle School and Spring Creek Elementary School. Also recommended the appointment of Mr. Ed Camardi and Mr. Joe Gurley as county commissioners. Selected Mosley architect for the Wayne County Detention Center projects. Contract with Mission Central Partners for Accomplishment Public Safety Awareness Point Assessment Study. Recommendation from the Facilities Subcommittee of the Wayne County Agricultural Committee to select HH Architects as the architectural firm for Phase 1 scope of the Wayne County Research Ag Center. Contracted with Southern Health Partners for inmate health care services at the jail. We also passed the budget ordinance for the fiscal year 2014-2015. Amended Goldsboro Wayne Transportation Agreement between the county and the City of Goldsboro. Also approved allocation from the North Carolina Eastern Region Fund from Wayne County municipalities. In one figure was $1.8 million and another $1.25 million for municipalities. Also recommended consideration of alternate 1 and alternate 4 for the US 117 project from 795 to I-40. Adopted regulations, operations and maintenance of solar energy farms in Wayne County. And also, one thing that I think we all should be proud of is we acted on, like I said, well over 200, or actually it was 400 items, and we had a unanimous vote on all of the items except 10. And I think that speaks highly for this board. Some other accomplishments, we have several new employees in the county. Sheriff Larry Pierce, Ashley Smith is Wayne County Soil and Water Conservation Director. Dave Fields is Wayne County Executive Jetport Manager. Jeremy Hills is Emergency Medical Service Manager. Ms. Crystal Geddes is President of Economic Development Alliance. Jerlene Lee is Interim Human Resource Director. Fred Fontana is Interim Goldsboro Wayne Transportation Authority Director. Mr. Tommy Burns, our latest Wayne County Assistant Manager. And other items that I feel that we need to mention separately. Resolution honoring the life and services of County Sheriff Kerry A. Winders. Dedication ceremony for the Steele Memorial Library in Mount Olive. Eastern Carolina State Veterans Cemetery groundbreaking that we just had about a month ago. And my passion, and I think it's real accomplishment for the county, the consolidation of Eureka Fire Protection District and the Fayette Fire Protection District to form Northeast Wayne Fire District. Also, New Hope Fire Protection District and East Wayne Fire Protection District to form the New Hope West Fire Service District. Also signed an agreement with Radio Communications Company for the upgrade on the radio system. And that's just a few of the things that I feel like that this board has accomplished over the past year, and I do appreciate y'all's time and let me mention these. Do I have a motion that we approve the minutes of the last meeting?
So moved.
Have a motion on the floor that we approve the November 18th meetings. Any discussion? If none, all in favor show sign of right hand. Motion carries. Special recognition, Mr. Wood, if you would
Yes,
handle this, please.
Mr. Chairman and Board, wanted to take a few minutes this morning to introduce two of our key staff people to you. Both of them started work yesterday. The first one is our new Assistant Manager, Mr. Tommy Burns. Tommy's sitting directly behind me here.
To the podium, just, you need to go up to the podium.
Up to, oh,
Get to the microphone.
The boss has spoken, Mr. Wood.
I've been ordered to the podium. Okay. This is Tommy Burns. Tommy has a bachelor's degree from Campbell University. He also has a master's in public administration from UNC Pembroke. And prior to coming here, he was the county manager in Harnett County. Prior to that, he was the town manager in Coates, Lillington, and Spring Lake. So he has both county experience and city experience, which I think gives you a broader perspective of local government in general. Also, all of his experience is in eastern North Carolina. He has also served on the BRAC committee for Pope and Fort Bragg, and so has a very good understanding of the impact of the military on the community, which obviously is very important to us with Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. And we're delighted to have him on board. I think nobody's more happy than I am that he's finally here. So, Tom, we want to welcome you. Thank you. Thank you. Crystal, if you come up, please. Our next addition is Crystal Geddes. Crystal is the new Wayne County Development Alliance President. Previously to that, she was the Assistant Director of the Lincoln Economic Development Association. And prior to that, with the same organization, she was over their marketing and existing industry programs. And I can attest, having been the manager there, she does an outstanding job. We're very fortunate to have her here. And Crystal, we just want to welcome you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to recognize two other people if I could. Mike Haney. Mike, if you stand up a minute for you. Mike took over the interim directorship or the interim president's job over at the Development Alliance, I guess, for 5 or 6 months, Mike?
Yeah.
Something like that. But he's done an outstanding job for us. We didn't miss a beat on anything. Several of you serve on that development board. I think you'll agree with me. Mike kept everything in the middle of the road, did a great job for us, and I just want to publicly acknowledge that. Mike, thank you very much. And then Mel Powers, if you'll step up here a minute. When Joe retired and accepted the position as a commissioner, of course, we had a vacancy in the Office of Emergency Services, as y'all know, and I guess that was back in June. So for the last 6 months, Mel has stepped up and been the interim director for the Office of Emergency Services. And with that, he's overseen the emergency management department, which he normally handles in security. But also, he's been over the 911 center, he's been over EMS, the animal shelter, the help with the airport, so it's a big job.
Wayne
And Wayne Net, yes. So, but he did an outstanding job, and again, we didn't miss a beat. He took over at a time where we had a lot of things going on, and the chairman has talked about a number of them. The 2 towers on the radio system, that was an issue, and he spent a lot of time trying to locate the property and get that squared away. We were also negotiating the new fire service contracts with all of our fire departments. He took care of that. He and Brian Taylor did a good job on that. And then the other thing he had to deal with, which almost never occurs, and that's the dissolution of a fire department. So with Pinewood dissolving, that's a fairly complicated legal issue, and we had to work through splitting that property up with 5 other fire departments. We also had to try to negotiate an agreement with the city of Goldsboro on that. So he's had a full plate, and he's done all of it extremely well. And I just want to publicly say thank you, man.
Thank you.
Commissioners need to come down.
This is their handle on there, right? Okay.
We'll start with our one-year pins, and our employees who are present, we'll ask them to come forward. Ava Crawford with the Health Department. Tara Barden with the Detention Center. April Rojas, Social Services. Jedediah Hayes, Detention Center. Francis Head, Social Services. Shaniki Lee, Detention Center. Crystal Lemon, Social Services. Joseph Randa, Emergency Medical Services. John Gray II, Emergency Medical Services. Alan Heath, Emergency Medical Services. Gigi Wynn, the Library. 5 years, Ann Brogdon, Health Department. Steve Kyer, Animal Control. Joyce Mooring, Social Services. Jesse Massey, Wayne Net. Randall Powell, Sheriff's Office. Brenna Wolf, Health Department. Ten years, Angelia Mitchell, Social Services. Lois Mooring, our Register of Deeds. "15 years, Alyssa Dobbin, Social Services. Vicki Falconer, Animal Control. Larry Henson, Emergency Medical Services. Joanne Hahn, Facility Services. Octavia Mohammed, Social Services. Ray Brogdon, Sheriff's Office. Sharon Coley, Detention Center. Nancy Johnson, Health Department. Carl Lancaster, Sheriff's Office. Christopher Peden, Sheriff's Office. Emily Smith, Sheriff's Office. Deborah Thorne, Social Services. "20 years, Monica Calloway, Health Department. Calvin Harvey, Emergency Services. Larry Pierce, Sheriff.
Right quick, I gotta pick on Calvin. Me and Calvin goes back a long way. When we had the big flood,
Mr. Chairman, you might want to stand.
like I said, me and Calvin goes back a long way. Back when we had the big flood, the 500-year flood, Calvin was one of our dispatchers, and he and some of the other staff had instructed. I was spokesperson for the media, and they had instructed me on what to do, how to do it, and I get on national television and give out the wrong phone number. And Calvin reminds me every time he sees me. So if y'all hear Calvin call me 1400, that's what it's all about. Thank you so much.
25 years, Matthew Holt, Facility Services. "30 years, Marion Waters, the Library. Lynn Hopkins, Solid Waste. Marion, we're going to take your picture. And we'd like to give everyone a hand.
We'll get started back in just a minute. Let's let our other two commissioners get back on the floor. We are running just a little bit behind schedule. We had two public hearings scheduled for 9:15, and we'll hold them just as soon as Mr. Payton, Mr. Camardi gets back.
Is that the air conditioner? Is the air conditioner?
Okay, we have everyone back. Mr. Wood, if you would, go over the public hearings for us, please.
Yes, sir. The first one is a proposed amendment to the Wayne County zoning map to rezone part of 2 tracks at 163 Longs Plant Farm Road from light industry to airport zone. This is to allow the operation of a cemetery. This is the property that you have donated over to the state of North Carolina for the state Veterans Cemetery. And as you know, we've had the groundbreaking on that. Connie, do you want to make any comments on this?
Morning.
On the rezoning request or change, you've got, as you know, there's 2 tracks on both sides of Longs Plant Farm Road. Most of the property on the west side is zone light industry, part of it's airport. A small part of the road is on the east side is zone light industry. The remaining is zone airport and RA30. And in the airport zone and the RA30 zone, cemeteries are listed as permitted use. We did receive a letter from Seymour Johnson concerning this rezoning, that they were supportive of the change. They said that it reminds us though that any buildings that go up in the area or on that property that would have people in them all the time, such as offices, need to be designed to attenuate noise coming in from the outside.
Does anyone have any comments to make at this public hearing? If so, come forward now. If no one has any comments, what's the pleasure of the board? Do you?
Need to close it.
This public hearing is now closed on the first item, proposal for the rezoning of Longs Plant Farm property. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pate.
I'd like to make the motion that we rezone the property that needs to be changed to light industry to airport.
I have a
If
motion.
I said that correctly.
I have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor of Mr. Pate's motion, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. Item number 2, proposed emergency services cost recovery ordinance for Wayne County, North Carolina. Mr. Wood, if you would, the public hearing is now open for that. Mr. Wood, if you would, kind of explain that.
Yes, sir. This is a new ordinance that we've been working on. And basically what it would allow is when we have major events that are costly to our fire departments, they would be able to bill the people involved in those. For instance, if we were to have a hazmat situation, a train derailment, or a truck with chemicals, things like that, that took a great deal of materials and supplies in order to deal with that issue, then our fire departments would be able to bill for that. It creates a 3-person committee that would review those claims before they were sent out, so you would retain control of whether or not that was being done. 2 of them would be the fire commissioner, which you appoint. The other would be the fire marshal, who is a county employee. The 3rd person would be an appointee from the Firefighters Association Executive Board. So the Firefighters Executive Board would have a role in this, our folks would have a role in this, and that would be the review process and approval process before these could be sent out. I want to be clear, we're not talking about billing people for every nickel and dime type fire scene, but we do list about 6 different areas in there that would be eligible for reimbursement, and they're all pretty much high impact type of incidents where we're there for an excessive amount of time, or they eat up a lot of resources in terms of hazmat, chemical spills, things of that nature. So most companies have insurance to handle this sort of thing. So if you have a train derailment or a trucking company has a problem with one of its semis with what it's carrying, they have insurance to carry this. So really, it's a means of helping our fire departments recoup those costs, because as you know, many of our fire departments are on very small budgets. So eating up $10,000, $15,000 or more on this kind of cleanup would be a major impact to some of those budgets. So that's the purpose of the ordinance. And again, we feel like we have enough safeguards in there that people can't just go out and willy-nilly make a claim on it. They have to go through this process, and it'll be vetted very thoroughly.
Anyone have any comments on this at this public hearing? If you would, state your name, address, and phone number, please.
Steve L. Herring, 349 Weaver Road, Goldsboro, NC, 27530. I have read this ordinance over and studied it extensively. It couldn't have been wrote better if I'd have wrote it myself. And anybody ought to be able to suit themselves. Only one mistake, typographical area next to the last word. I think they need to put an H in there, per hour.
Very good.
Thank you.
We can take care of that.
I would like to recommend this be adopted as soon as possible. Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? I have just a couple. Mr. Wood stated in the fire departments, but my understanding is this really would pertain to any emergency organization in the county. It could actually fall under the sheriff department, even the county of Wayne with EMS. So it's not singled out for the fire departments. They will probably benefit from it more than anybody else, but other agencies in the county also would be affected by this. No one else? Mr. Gurley.
Thank you. This is long overdue. Although the fire departments have tax districts and majority of them do fundraisers such as the emergency that's described in this ordinance could drastically impact the fire department and drain their budgets. So this will be a of great help to them. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for leading the charge and staying with the course, and thank you for staying with us to ensure the adoption of it. And there's been a lot of people in the background that's helped. I know Mr. Jay Howell's here today, and I thank Jay personally. And Steve L. Herron, thank you for your input. Steve asked me probably 3 or 4 or 5 months ago to let him look at it. And it's very good when you have people in the audience that's listening and listen to what the needs are and then have input. So thank you, Steve, for that.
And I would like, just for the record, this cost recovery ordinance, it went to the Firefighters Association, and they gave us our blessings on it. There was a few questions, and just like with the fire contracts, we pretty much changed it the way they felt like. But this is not something that the Firefighters Association was not aware of. It was sent to their president, and they had the chance to review it. Anyone else have any comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Kamala.
I am in support of the document in the larger sense, but I do want to bring attention to Section 204, and this is so that the public can be aware of the small parts. Specifically, the last sentence. These incidents often involve multiple injuries, long-term cleanup, control measures, as well as special extraction and rescue equipment. And if I understand special extraction, that's the jaws of life. If I stand correct, if I don't stand correctly, that's what it is.
That's right.
My only concern is that while I understand that large transportation carriers and so forth have special provisions in their probably contracts and insurance that they would cover that, I would only want to bring attention to it so that in the future, if there's a situation where an individual is in a situation that would need the jaws of life, I would not want that individual to have to come along behind that and pay for services that I feel like the county should be responsible for. And that's for the individual citizen. I just want to make that very clear. Overall, I think it's a fine policy to cover those broad chemical spills and hazardous kinds of situations. But I just wanted to bring that to make it official part of the record that our citizens need to be protected from things that could be happening on a basis that would impact our individual citizens. I've seen a few situations where the jaws of life had to be brought in, and I would just not want the private citizen to have an additional burden on them. And Mr. Wood, to his credit, we've talked about this, and there is a safety net set up for a board to examine situations, and I'm aware of that.
Right, and that,
if you want to speak to that.
That's an excellent point. That committee will review those kinds of things, because it's not our intent for the individual citizen, just because they're in a vehicular accident, to have to pay for that, whether the jaws of life are used or not. This is really for major incidents where it would be extremely time-consuming and that sort of thing. But, you know, a wreck where they have to cut the top off, things like that to get them out, that would not result in a charge. That's not the intent at all. And I think it'd be good to have these comments in the public record so that if there's a question about what the intent was, it's clear it was not the intent to do that, and that committee would be governed by that and guided by that.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments?
If I could just follow up on that.
Yeah.
The way I'm reading that would be something out of the ordinary, like a train wreck or
That's
something
right.
that took many, many hours to
That's right.
extricate people.
That's right.
Is that correct?
And that's right, and that's why that committee is there, because we want consistency across the years, which is why we want the fire marshal on there, because he'll have an institutional memory of what we've done in prior events and how serious it is.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Doherty.
I move adoption of the emergency.
Got to close.
Oh, it's got to close.
Does anyone else have any comments from the audience? If not, this public hearing on the cost recovery ordinance is now closed. Now, Mr. Doherty.
Mr. Chairman, I move adoption of the Emergency Services Cost Recovery Ordinance. That's so written.
We have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion?
That included that addition of our,
That includes the correction of the last, next to the last word, changing that to "our" each.
We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. Appointment committee, Mr. Gurley.
Mr. Chairman, appointment committee met this morning and discussed some appointments, and we will have a recommendation for those positions at our next scheduled board of commissioner meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Gurley. Unfinished business. Mr. Wood, if you would take care of these.
All right. Mr. Chairman, under unfinished business, we have a motion to approve the 2014-15 Wayne County Fire Service agreements. As y'all recall, we've been working on these probably for about 3 months. The deadline for them was actually at the end of October. You passed a resolution extending those for 60 days to give us time to finalize all of those. Those interim contracts were all executed. During that time, we resolved the 1 or 2 minor issues that we had. So the contracts are ready to go. As I said in the memo to you, there are 3 types of contracts here. The first one is the bulk of our departments, where they're a volunteer fire department within Wayne County. That's the bulk of them, about 24 of those, and that's the first contract that you see. The second one that you see is with 2 towns, and that's the town of Mount Olive and Fremont. We gave you the one for Mount Olive, but the Fremont one is identical. You just changed the names. And essentially on the town contracts, we did a few things there. We removed the reference to the nonprofit status because obviously they're not nonprofits, they're municipal corporations. We removed the reference to the bylaws and board of directors because obviously they're not a nonprofit with a board of directors. They have elected city councils. We removed the agreement to pay workers' comp. We don't pay workers' comp for towns. We pay it for the volunteer fire departments, but not for towns. We removed that the towns will perform their own, the towns will perform their own annual review and submit to the county. You pay for those CPA things with the volunteer fire departments, but every town by state law has to submit to an audit. So they would already have that. Finally, we removed any references to financial requirements such as fixed asset inventory or blanket bonds because it's not our place to talk about the financial viability of a municipality. They're overseen just as you are by the North Carolina Local Government Commission. So you can rely on them to keep them straight on that. Then the last contract you have is with 2 towns, and that's the town of LaGrange and Princeton Volunteer Fire Department. And the distinction here is that those 2 communities are outside of Wayne County, but they service small areas within Wayne County for the tax revenue that we give them for that. What we've done with them is the same 4 or 5 items that we did up above. Then we removed any debt service and land acquisition approvals by us because they're independent towns and that's not for us to determine for them. We removed the reference to attending the Wayne County Firefighters Association meetings. That's a requirement for the ones in Wayne County. It's not for these because we contract with them outside the county. We removed the appointment of the 3 fire service district commissioners because they're not fire service districts, they're incorporated towns. We removed the 990 tax filing statement, again for the same reason, they're incorporated municipalities. And also we removed the financial tax management practices statement for the same reason. So those are the changes in the 3. What we're asking you to do is approve for the chairman and the clerk to the board to execute all of those agreements, depending on which one applies to that particular fire department. And again, the Wayne County Firefighters Association Executive Board is in agreement with these, so I think we're ready to go. Everything's been worked out. Mel, is there anything you want to add?
No, sir, I think you did it all.
Okay.
Okay, you've heard recommendation from Mr. Wood. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion on the floor that we approve the fire contracts for the 2014-15 year. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Darty?
You know, I think a lot of people wondered why in the world it was taking so long to get these contracts. After seeing all the things that were removed and the extensive work that you all put into this, I just wanted to commend you for the job done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I'd also like to make a comment, I'd like to thank Mel and Brian and the staff over at OES for working on this. Also, Mr. Parker, Mr. Wood, and also, most importantly, the Firefighters Association, because there was a few things that was a little bit gray in the initial contracts, and we agreed for them to look at it on an individual basis. We let their attorney go over it, and he actually changed a couple of things that actually benefited the county. I mean, so he was not just looking at it just for the Firefighters Association, he was looking at it as far as a legal standpoint for both parties. But again, thank y'all for your hard work and effort on this. Any other discussion? If no other comments or discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve the fire service contracts, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
You want me to go ahead to the next one?
Yes, sir.
The next one is the motion to approve the reallocation of North Carolina's Eastern Region Fund. Again, you have a spreadsheet that Mrs. Holt has prepared for you. The amount of money is the same, and that's $3,069,192.25. As y'all recall, we went after 3 different loans with the Eastern Region. This is from their dissolution, and the money was on hand and could either be loaned out to the various counties or it could be returned to the state. The loans are for 59 months, which is 1 month less than 5 years. It had to be less than 5 years, so they went out 59 months. The interest rates are extremely favorable, as y'all recall, on that. And so what we've done is on the initial one, we pretty much set most of that aside for our municipalities. Then on the second phase, when we got that, we went back to Goldsboro because they had requested money for their Berkeley Boulevard project, and we were able to help fund that with the second part of it. And then we had reserved some money, and then some of it we had reserved for our sewer project, the Advanced Manufacturing Center, and also some industrial park property. So what we have done is reallocated some. Principally, you had about $140-something thousand in there for Eureka, for their sewer. They are not in a position to borrow that money, so we have removed that. We have basically redirected that money to our sewer projects because subsequent to this happening, we've gotten the report back about Genoa, and we know that Milford's had to make some substantial repairs there, and we're also looking at replacing that line, the current line, with a force main.
What was that amount again?
Well, now it'll be up to $552,000. That may not cover all of it, Joe, but as much as I could, I redirected money into that sewer line item.
Yeah, but how much was allocated originally to Eureka?
Oh, it was 140 something. I don't have the exact number.
146, 670, right?
Yeah.
78.
And then, if you remember on the second go-around, Fremont requested an additional 50. We left that. Mount Olive closed on the 100,000, but they did not close on the additional 40,000, I believe we had given them. Is that right, Pam? And then the Pikeville, you remember we had an issue with them. They originally wanted 75,000, then they came back and said 45. Then they came back and said 75. We've left that in there. We've talked to the new town manager, and he's to get back with Pam shortly. They have a meeting, I believe it's this week, isn't it, Pam?
It was last night.
Last night. So we're gonna find out what they want to do with that. In the meantime, we're leaving it in there for them. But we may be coming back with a change on that. If we do, my recommendation to you is gonna be just put that into our sewer so that we can get our repairs done on the Genoa line as cheaply as possible.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
Do you know, Mr. Wood, of any other municipalities that have asked for any money that, at this time?
Well, I'm not aware of any payments.
Is anyone aware of any? Okay.
So I think we've covered it. And y'all have been very generous with them. If you look at the middle column, you'll see that the total projected loans for municipalities are $1,482,000, and the county's portion is $1,587,000. So almost a 50-50 split between the municipalities and the county.
But 365,000 of that is reserved, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, that's just there.
Well, it's there, but the initial reservation was for possible projects with one of the municipalities, which I'd rather not get into right now. But right now, that reservation is potentially for one of the municipalities on a project. And we'll be back to you with that.
Okay.
Once the details are worked out on that.
Okay. Does it have to do with sewer?
No.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Oh, the other thing I was gonna mention, yeah, we did cut the advanced manufacturing amount that we originally had in there.
What we did is we split out the money. As you know, we're looking at an industrial property and we're looking at the advanced manufacturing center. So we've split these out based on where we stand today on both of those.
Mm-hmm.
And your recommendation is we approve this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you've heard Mr. Wood's recommendation. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
Make a motion that we approve the reallocation of the North Carolina's Eastern Region funds as presented.
Okay, Mr. Mayor's motion is on the floor. Any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. I think, Mr. Wood, we did move one from the consent agenda item to item number 3 under unfinished.
Yes, sir. This is to establish a public hearing on December 16 to receive public comments on levying an assessment for streetlights in the number 5 street lighting district, which is Ashby Hills. And Marcia has the advertisement ready to go and all of that. As you heard earlier at the 8 o'clock work session, they have confirmed, Marcia and the tax administrator, Alan Lumpkin, have confirmed that the signatures we got were 88% of the property owners. And again, just to remind you, the state statute requires 67%. So they more than met that. They're ready to go. And that's why we want to go ahead and hold a public hearing. We would do that at the next meeting, and at the next meeting, following the public hearing, you could go ahead and vote to levy the assessment on those properties. And then Alan would send out a special billing on that. Is there anything else,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. Ashby Hills, I want to give a thanks to Mr. Michael Hannah, who was a representative for Ashby Hills. He really put an effort to get this petition signed, along with a lot of people that helped him. But I want to thank him for being proactive in getting the lights turned on in their subdivision. This is the first one, has already been mentioned, Street Light District 5.
do we have any idea, once the public hearing is done, do we have any kind of a timeline that we think that may? I have not checked with Duke, but it wouldn't take long at all, to send a service technician out there. But I'll have that for you by the next meeting.
I will say that the people of Ashby Hills would like to have them for Christmas.
Right.
Okay?
Message received.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we need a motion on setting the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor.
I'll make the motion to establish a public hearing on December the 16th, 2014 at 9:15 a.m. to receive public comments on levy and assessment for street lights in Street Light District Number 5, Ashby Hills.
I have a motion on the floor that we set a public hearing on December the 16th for the Streetlight District Number 5, Ashby Hills. Did you get that, all of his motion, Marcia?
I got every bit of it.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, Marcia reminded me, we are also sending out a letter to all the property owners there, notifying them of the public hearing.
Thank you. I would just like to make a comment. Mr. Mayo actually started the groundwork on this, and I would like to thank him for his work on this, and I know the residents in Ashby Hills appreciate him getting the ball rolling on this. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of setting the public hearing, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Yeah. I believe it's time, 10 o'clock for
Yep.
public comment.
Okay, it is 10 o'clock. We allow a public comment section at 10 o'clock. You're allowed 4 minutes. Anyone have any public comments to make, if they would come forward, please, and state your name, address, and phone number.
Tom Drew, P.O. Box 587, Goldsboro 27533. In recent years, I've presented a request to the Board of Education, Board of Commissioners, Wayne County Board of Elections, and State Board of Elections, that being that the state of education and democracy is a threat to national and international security, is there anyone on this board who welcomes at a time and place of mutual convenience, healthy in-depth open discussion in of that matter, which I ask this board now. No reply. Recognize the word forum as the most fundamental word to education and democracy. Education and democracy are spoken in order of priority. As some would say, the economy and healthcare systems are only as great as our democracy. Our democracy is only as great as our education system. In preferring that the classroom be the forum of the first resort, and the courtroom to be the forum of the last resort, the understanding is the absence of the forum of the first resort negates the forum of the last resort. Thus, flaws in education and democracy can be found manifest in the flaws of judicial procedure affecting the securing of the electoral due process of the preliminary hearing held November 20th by the Wayne County Board of Elections to address my 2014 election protest filed November 18th. I prefer the words election promotion. I'm aware of some fundamental flaws in electoral due process and some significant creative constructive solutions to those. The flaws are the ability to inform and be informed, so when you vote you are informed, is so fundamentally flawed, be a crime against humanity for me not to contest the elections, knowing the life and death issues the elections decide. There was a decision on the 20th by the Wayne County Board of Elections. One can file an appeal to the state board, or one can file an amended election protest. The amended election protest is in the process of being filed. They say the worst kind of tyranny is bad laws. But I'd say the worst kind of tyranny is rooted in bad education. Dysfunctional education democracy produces dysfunctional electoral due process, which produces dysfunctional representation, which produces dysfunctional legislation. There's two cruxes in that matter. There was one question to explore the quality of education democracy. I had a chance to ask the sheriff on the way up. I'll address it at the next public comment. And the other is the ability to have open discussion with an instructor of democracy in the Wayne County Public Schools who does not welcome such. And the crux of that matter, how do you explore the quality of education and democracy if the educator is not open to discussion about the books that they use in their rooms? Where is the oversight to secure the integrity
Thank
of
you, Mr.
education in democracy?
Thank you, Mr. Drew. Thank you for your comments, and welcome back. Anyone else have any public comments? If no one else has any comments, the public comment session is closed.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Doty.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I have a motion on the floor that we approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? We did remove number 5 and acted under it under unfinished business. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor of the consent agenda, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimously. New business, Mr. Wood, if you would.
Mr. Chairman, Marcia'd like to take maybe about a 3-minute break. She needs to upload their presentation into her computer too.
We're in agreement. We'll take a 3-minute break.
You couldn't stand it over.
We're back in session after a break. We're going to go to item number 2 under new business and then go back to item number 1. Mr. Wood.
Under new business, the motion is to approve the Grayson Creek Section 1 final subdivision plat. You heard Mr. Price say this morning, there's nothing out of the ordinary. This is just a standard subdivision plat approval. And Mr. Price is here if you have any questions on it.
Any questions from Mr. Price? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion on the floor. We approve Grayson's Creek Section 1 final subdivision plot. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mann.
I forgot earlier, I just had one question. Where it has, on the very end, this is a one road egress and ingress and egress. Is there enough room, we're gonna be enough room at the end of that street for turnaround of fire equipment? If you need to get in there?
Yes, sir. That's gonna be temporary. The road will eventually, come back at the end of Kings Mill Drive, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
There'll be a temporary turnaround built there, yes, sir.
Okay, but when it extend, will it extend sooner or later?
Yes, sir, that street will extend, visually almost all the way out to 581.
Okay, so that temporary turnaround will continue along
Yes, sir.
with the extension, is that correct?
Yes, sir, it will. Eventually, there'll be a permanent turnaround at the end
Okay.
of the street, and there'll be, an interior loop inside the property.
Okay.
The entrance that you see there on Grayson's Drive, where it comes out to Norian, is the only way in or out to the property. but there's gonna be, when it reaches 581, there'll be a entrance and exit there for emergency equipment that can come and go that way, but not for the general public.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
And normally, in a case like this, Mr. Mayo, or where you see the dotted line, that's like Connie said, that's temporary.
Yeah.
Normally, when the street is extended, that property reverts to those adjoining lots.
That's correct.
Most of the time.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we have a motion on the floor. No other discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries. Item number 3, Mr. Wood.
Item number 3 is a motion to approve invocation and pledge of allegiance resolution. As you indicated at the earlier meeting, we received this from Lee County with a request that we pass a similar resolution. The chairman had sent this out to all of you, and Commissioner Mayo asked that we have a resolution prepared for presentation at this meeting and discussion.
Okay, Mr. Mayo, if you would read that resolution, please.
Yes, sir. Whereas minutes of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners indicate the Board of Commissioners has regularly had an invocation as part of its agenda since Reverend A.J. Hobbs gave the invocation on February 1st, 1954. And whereas the Pledge of Allegiance of the United States is an expression of faithfulness to the flag of the United States and the Republic of the United States of America, originally composed by Francis Bellamy in 1892 and formally adopted by Congress as a pledge in 1892 with the official name of the Pledge of Allegiance adopted in 1945. And whereas in the 1950s, Under God was added to the Pledge of Allegiance, and whereas the U.S. Senate and U.S. Congress sessions open with the recital of the pledge and a prayer to, as do many local government meetings, including the Wayne County Board of Commissioners, and whereas the United States Supreme Court has recently authorized the prayers for local government meetings. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wayne County Board of Commissioners supports the commitment of opening each of its meetings with an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, adopted this the second day of December 2014. I make a motion at this time, Mr. Chairman, we adopt this resolution as read.
I have a motion on the floor that we adopt the resolution that Mr. Mayo just read. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayo.
As I mentioned earlier at the 8 o'clock session, the resolution is pretty well self-explanatory since the Board of Commissioners does do and has done for many years an invocation and pledge of allegiance, that I felt that this would just support and reinforce what we're already doing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I'd also like to add that that we did get a request from Lee County, and as Mr. Wood stated, and I forwarded it on to the other county commissioners, and we're already doing this, but this is a nationwide effort to establish our beliefs, and I do appreciate the board considering this. But we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? If no other discussion, all in favor show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Ready for Dewberry.
I think we're ready for the Dewberry presentation now, Mr.
Okay, we'll
Chairman.
go back to item number 1 then. Mr. Wood.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I want to introduce Larry Mitchell and Matt West with Dewberry and Associates, and Mr. West will be giving you the presentation. Y'all had requested an update on where we are on that project. So, Mr. West.
Thank you, Mr. Wood, and we appreciate this opportunity to update the board on this project. I think Ms. Wilson is handing out an agenda that we'll be talking from, and if anybody doesn't get a copy, let us know. We've got a couple of extras. So kind of a update and just to go back to the purpose of the study, the purpose was, with all the transportation improvements occurring in the county, the 795 bypass north to 264 that's already constructed, the 70 bypass, and then the proposed 795 south corridor, to look at utilities, specifically water and sewer improvements that may be required, that will be required to serve those interchanges as they build as a result of the interchange being there, better access, promote development within the county. So based on those improvements, we are looking at evaluating utility service, specifically water and sewer, to serve the interchanges. Real quick on the background, there are 17 interchanges included with the study, and they're denoted with the stars on the map. The 13 of the 17 are located within the Goldsboro MPO boundary. There are 3 down at Mount Olive and the interchange up at Fremont that are outside the MPO boundary. We are currently working with those municipalities to obtain their land use, any rezoning data that will help guide the study so we understand what the future view is for those interchanges. For the 13 interchanges located within the MPO boundary, the MPO did a very in-depth look of future land use within that MPO boundary. So from looking at utility service going forward, that provides a pretty detailed plan as to what the development could look like, whether it's industrial, commercial, residential. I guess, Mr. Aycock, one thing you mentioned this morning was the board had approved which options the 795 South corridor were preferred. And there are 2 interchanges. It's the interchange at Mount Olive Road and US 13 South, but looking at DOT's public hearing maps that are in flux, that haven't been set. So what we've done for the study at this time is to pick the 2 of those alternatives, pick the 2 that would be most impactful to the water and sewer. Essentially pick the 2 alternatives that would have the greatest opportunity for development around it, the most available land, as a worst-case utility planning tool. Instead of selling it short, be sure there's enough to cover it, and if a different alternative is selected, then go back and adjust the study to encompass the chosen alternative for those interchanges. So the 17 interchanges are listed there. I won't go through all of them. As far as the data sets that are being used to study, I mentioned the Goldsboro MPO plan that's recently been completed. Also, the Wayne County Freeway Development Plan, which is the purpose is to encourage orderly growth of the interchanges for both the public and private sector. The other document is the Wayne County Comprehensive Plan. We are consulting the county's comprehensive plan and have a task a little later in the study to review the specific statements in the comprehensive plan regarding utilities to see if any updates may be warranted to support the growth of the interchange from a utility standpoint. So flipping to page 2 to get into the meat of the study, kind of the process. The first task is to develop the estimated water and sewer demands for each interchange. And for the study at this time, we're assuming the same demand for water and sewer. And we'll talk about that a little later, where we may have to go back and look at that in a little more detail, because it may not be realistic to assume that the wastewater will be as high as the water demands. So what we've done is, as I mentioned earlier, is really delved into the MPO future land use data to understand what that data is, what the future growth projections, what the future land use looks like. And to be consistent with the MPO looked, from a transportation planning purpose, looked at a 3/4 mile radius around the interchange. Put a dot at the center of the interchange, draw a 3/4 mile radius. So to be consistent with that area, we have applied that same distance, that same area to this interchange utility study. So we have looked at each interchange, identified the 3/4 mile radius around it, and said that that is the area that the utility planning would cover around that interchange. So the 3/4 mile around the interchange. So with that 3/4 mile identified, so there's the you have all this land, the area within that. So we've looked at published wetland data, we've looked at the published floodplain mapping data, we've looked at what's actually road, because looking at the maps, it's kind of staggering, how much how much area the road takes up within that radius. I mean, some of the interchange where they spread out, you do lose some land. So looking at that radius, we've removed the roads, we've removed the wetlands, and we've removed the floodways, not the floodplains, because you can develop in the floodplain as long as you raise your structure, as long as you document no impacts. And quite frankly, a couple of interchanges, if you said no development in the floodplain around these interchanges, you wouldn't have anything left, especially the one near Arrington Bridge Road and the Neuse River going south on the future 795 corridor. We all know, so we shrunk the area down from those items, and we also looked, based on a GIS standpoint, the county's GIS data, the properties that are improved, the properties that have houses, the properties that have industries, that have gas stations, that have restaurants, to assume that they would not be developed in the future, because to assume the whole area is probably unrealistic. But as part of our final QA/QC, to go back to that, we will go through each interchange on a parcel-by-parcel basis, because looking at the building value or improvement value and what was pulled out, that sells short some of the larger tracts that could be developed. A 100-acre tract that has a farmhouse on it that could be developed one day. Looking at that improvement, that leaves a lot of land that wouldn't be accounted for. So as part of our final QA/QC, we'll look at each interchange individually to ensure that, we do have a grasp on what is developable within that 3/4 mile radius. So, Ms. Wilson, could you scroll down one slide, please, ma'am? So, that one right there. So, within the MPO, there are the future land use classifications: commercial, office institutional, industrial, conservation, mixed use downtown, mixed use 1 and 2, high density residential, medium density residential, low density residential, and rural residential / agriculture. So what we have done is, for each of those future land uses, is developed a average flow, which is the second column, an average flow gallons per day, gallons per acre per day. So if you're doing rural residential, you've got 20 acres, you would assume a average flow per day of 400 gallons per acre per day. So, and then that would equate to based on your developable acreage for that land use, that would equate to your future estimated flow needed to serve that area at the interchange. So, I guess to go back to the average flow per day, gallons per day per acre, we've consulted some industry standard data. We've looked at different development data for municipalities in the area, from city of Raleigh to town of Cary to town of Lillington, and they all, even the large municipalities meshed with the town of Lillington, some of the smaller municipalities. So we've used those numbers as a starting point and as a guide to be sure that the flow per land use is accurately represented as to what different industries, different land uses could require as far as demand from a water and sewer standpoint.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Doherty. You're giving us with a lot of information. Can I back up?
Yes, sir.
If I'm understanding you, you're saying that you basically have taken the designated land usage of the MPO.
Yes.
To determine what category that land would be used, and then you are trying to match up the water
Correct.
demand. Is that correct?
That's correct. We've taken the future land uses identified by the MPO and then assigned wastewater flows based on gallons per acre per day to come up with a future flow for each interchange.
Well, my concern there is, I don't know what MPO, even though I'm sitting on that board, I don't know what MPO has designated its land use to be. If it's outside the city,
correct,
then it's not zoned by the city, it'd be zoned by the county. And it looks to me like we would be using what proposed land use would be, because some of this is agriculture,
Correct.
but would change over to more of a commercial designation.
Correct. And what we've used is the future land use.
So you have used
Yes,
the
the
future.
future, the proposed land use.
Okay. So you're not using the existing?
Not the existing, no,
Okay,
sir.
all right.
We're using the proposed as identified with the MPO, and then we're working with
Well, you
now.
can see my concern there.
Yes, I see your concern.
Okay.
That could greatly skew and impact anything we do.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let's go down one more, please, ma'am. So this is an example. This is US 70 West in the Rosewood community, the first interchange. As you come on 70 East towards Goldsboro, the first interchange on the 70 bypass. So the different colors identify the different future land uses. So the yellow is low-density residential, the green up the top is rural residential, there's some orange, which is medium-density residential, and then the purple is mixed use, and the red is commercial. So by removing the floodplains, by removing the currently developed tracts, by removing the floodways, we get down to that area that's possibly developable around the interchange. And then the flows have been generated based on that land that's available.
Could you point with your pointer on there where the highway is?
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
kind of point out. I had to get my glasses on here to look at this. All right, so there's the highway.
Correct.
That's the existing highway.
That's the existing highway, and then the bigger white spot between the two purple is where the right-of-way for 70 bypass.
All right, so there's the bypass.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
all right.
So all that is the right of way, taking out the right of way.
Okay.
Just taking out the.
And then that, right, a little bit down there is where Walmart is.
The red.
That
Yes.
purple triangle.
That
Right.
purple, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Correct.
The red.
Okay. Thank you.
So from a process standpoint, we've worked and working through this for each interchange, is to develop a similar map, to develop the flow projections based on the future land use, to arrive at a flow, what could be anticipated in the future for each of these interchanges. So we've got a couple more, if we'll scroll down one page. This is US 13 North at Goldsboro on the 70 bypass. Look at the same type of routine. We came with an average daily flow of 610 gallons per minute, 610,000 gallons per day, which is a big flow. I mean, to consider a full build-out, that's a large flow to contend with for any of the suppliers in the county. So, we've tried to recognize that and be cognizant of it, to be sure it is a balanced approach, that it's not extremely low, it's not off the deep end high, it's a reasonable approach that will serve as a guide as to what water and sewer demands may be required to develop these interchanges as the road projects, one's complete, one's under construction, and the future one that's coming. So here's the map for the 13 to the 70 bypass. And Mr. Daugherty, I don't think that the data have been updated to show the right-of-way for the 70 bypass there, but it does run in a east to west manner. That's 13 running the north and south. I guess to go back to something I mentioned earlier is distinguishing the difference between the future water and the future wastewater flows. At this time, we have assumed that they're the same, that it would be a one-to-one split. If water's a gallon a day, you'd have a gallon a day for sewer. But this interchange is a good example. All the green is rural residential and agriculture. And so a lot of those parcels or that land that may develop, it may be a house on an acre lot, it may be a house on a 5-acre lot. So a lot of those may be able to be served by septic tanks. It may not make sense to have a public sewer extension to serve that. So we're looking now and working and planning to present Connie with some ideas on how we can pare the sewer down, because we don't think it's reasonable to assume that the sewer flows will be all of that rural residential agriculture land use will require public sewer. To have a more realistic number to take to meet when we meet with individual providers regarding future flows and how they can serve it.
Question, please.
Yeah.
I know you hadn't updated the map, but where is the bypass that's coming out almost straight across?
Yes.
At the same,
That, the star there is the interchange, so it is kind of coming this way
okay,
across there.
just trying to wrap my mind around that. Okay, thank you.
And I think we've got, scroll down one more sheet. This is the Parkstown Road and US 70 bypass intersection, just to, based on future land use, develop an average daily flow of around 400,000 gallons a day, 395,000. And then if we go down one more slide, so here's that interchange. You can see where the 70 bypass is identified as being cut out. The interchange spreads out around the star. But again, the majority of this future development would likely be rural residential agriculture as well. So the same thoughts regarding sewer and how we deal with that, come to play here. What we gets to, what's logical, what's reasonable, what's, to ask the providers to plan for, what's a number that will serve everybody well. And one thought is to assume that half that area could require public sewer, half could be served with septic tanks. But again, we'll work with Connie to flush that out as we finish our final QA/QC of the flows. Regarding the final QA/QC, I just want to hit this again. We will go back and look at each interchange individually and look at parcels individually to be sure that we have not excluded land that's maybe already developed, or we have not left out land that's developable, to be sure that it is an accurate snapshot of what there is and what's available for development going forward. So this task one is nearing completion, and we are in the process of setting up meetings with each of the water and sewer providers in the county, which are the City of Goldsboro, Fremont, Pikeville, the Wayne Water Corporation, Fort Township, Southwest Wayne Water District, Mount Olive, to go meet with them to understand where their facilities are in relationship to these interchanges, what may be required to serve these interchanges, what kind of water line extension could be served, understand capacity they have in their system, understand impact fees that they may charge folks that are looking to build here, whether it be a house or a subdivision or a gas station, be sure that's documented. Once that's documented, we will summarize all that and then begin preparing cost estimates for required improvements for each interchange based on what we learn from them. And as part of the cost estimating, we'll also look at funding, possible funding sources that may be available to fund these possible improvements. And then once all that's pulled together, we'll have the future flow projections, kind of a guide for developable land, where the existing infrastructure is, water or sewer, cost to extend that water sewer if necessary to the interchange, document any fees, what it would cost for somebody to go to one of these interchanges, and all that will be summarized in a report. So the county has that guide as to what kind of water and sewer capacity will be required as you begin to see growth around each of these interchanges.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, could I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at your scope of services. You said did you say you're finished with task one?
We're wrapping up task one, and we have had some schedule delays, and some have been our part, but some have also been being sure we had the current data, because we worked with the city, we worked with the MPO folks to be sure that we got the correct data, the correct future land use data, because there were a couple times we didn't think we had the final version of the MPO report, and we felt like that was critical before we moved forward too much, because that could really impact what we did. So we've gotten all that data, and we're plowing ahead, and our goal was to be done the next 60 days, to have everything wrapped up and the final report delivered.
That was my next question.
I thought it might have been.
Well, at the rate you're going, cars will be flying by on the bypass there, but you're looking at 60 days.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the schedule has slid, but we're on the back side of that, and we're pushing forward, bring it to conclusion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor.
the last question is I want to ask you, I don't have a particular reason, but are you getting, what kind of cooperation are you getting countywide from all these different areas that you're, like, the city, the county, water districts, water, sewer, all these different departments and so forth that you're talking to? You see the cooperation good?
Yes, and I want to give Connie credit for that. Connie invited them all to the kickoff meeting. So with the kickoff meeting, we established the lines of communication, and they said, and they told us, call this person, they told us who to call. So as we're reaching out to them, they're aware of what we're doing, they're aware we're calling. So, setting that course of dialogue up front has made, moving down the road very successful.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Norton.
I'm trying to choose my words carefully, and it's difficult for me to do that. My concern is under task 2, your last item there, where it says review impact and capacity fees the service providers may charge.
Yes, sir.
That's a mouthful. And the reason that there's a red flag that comes to mind here is that a lot of the future economic viability of Wayne County is going to rest on your map with all those stars. And from what I'm seeing here, that really is outside the control of this board. It really rests in the hands of municipalities and sanitary districts. Am I correct?
I think you're correct. My understanding is the county doesn't own any water or wastewater facility.
Which is fine.
Correct.
Except when that comes into a conflict of impact fees or capacity fees that are charged in such a way as to prevent business and industry from coming into Wayne County. So a red flag just goes off in my head here. And I'd like your input in regards to what is within your scope of work here of reviewing impact and capacity fees the service providers may charge.
I guess early on when we met with county staff about scoping this project, that was identified as a concern. So, as part of the data collection, meeting with these folks, part of our scope was to be sure we obtained all that data and document it so it is documented in this study. But, as far as making recommendations as to how that may impact, development, that was not part of our scope.
Right. But if you'll notice under task 3, he is going to provide you a summary of funding sources available. So when you talk about, that will be the discussion that you're having now about how could you fund these, not you specifically, not the county, but how can those extensions be funded? And that's what he'll be talking about, because that's the options that'll be available to either the cities or the utility districts if they choose to get into the sewer business. And that's the other question is not all of them are in the sewer business yet. So then the question becomes, do they want to get into the sewer business? Because if you're not in the business yet, the first issue is obviously, well, where are you taking it to get it treated?
Well, as I inched out onto that branch and it did not fall, I'm now coming back into the trunk. I just want to open up the dialogue in regards to some concerns there.
Understand. And with the cost estimates, one thing that we're planning to do, is it is documented that for this interchange, for example, if it takes a half a mile water main extension, to get the water service there so it's available, is an impact fee going to be charged just for that extension with no customers? And if that's the case, document that in the cost estimate, at least for that piece, but also have in the study, if Gas Station Y decides to build the interchange, that they may face impact fees of, this as currently charged by the provider.
So your report would actually report back to this board in regards to what a particular municipality or sanitary district is anticipating charging as an impact fee. Am I correct?
Correct. Maybe not anticipate, but at least what's currently documented, what they currently have on the books.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll hush.
Any other questions? You got any more questions, Mr. Wood?
No, sir, I think when they get back with the final report, it's going to give us some information to further that discussion. Because, I mean, when you get down to it, the final analysis is, it really comes down to two ways of funding. I mean, you can have a lot of different things, but ultimately, you know, if you don't use impact fees, then essentially you're spreading the cost of your capital expenditures across your entire customer base, which means your rates have to go up. Your monthly charges to all your customers have to go up in order to generate the money to pay off debt service that you borrow the money to put it in the ground. The other theory is that those who create the need for the extensions should pay for it. And that's where you get into the impact fee structure. So it's really a philosophical question of who should pay and who benefits. And that's really what, when you get this back, that's really what it's going to come down to. I mean, and then there's, you know, possible grants, loans, things like that. But ultimately, philosophically, it's going to come down to, do you put the cost, the added cost of extensions across your customer base through your monthly rates? Or do you do it through an impact fee specific to whoever comes in and develops a piece of property to do that? Or do you use some combination of it? You know, but that's ultimately, is that a fair statement?
Very fair. And to clarify one thing, the bullet says impact and capacity fees. That should be, you know, the terms are used interchangeably, you know. So they weren't intended to be two separate fees. It was intended to be one and the same.
Again, my concern is that we do not unduly burden industries or investment in those interchanges. Because looking out forward, that is our future tax base. It is our future sales tax revenue. There's just a lot of things that will affect the future of our county. So it's very important.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor?
I don't very often agree with Commissioner Daughter, but on this one, on this one I am. My concern is the same as Commissioner Daughter. I see and have heard of cases that people applied to start a business in a certain area, and a small business, for example, and the impact fees were not conducive to them even starting a business. What my concern is that I want to make sure, just like Commissioner Daughter is talking about, that we give everyone an opportunity that wants to start a business in Wayne County. We want to give them a level playing field. A small business should not have to pay an impact fee like Walmart, for example, or even close to that. But if a person that has a small business that wants to start and they cannot afford it because of impact fees, we have a problem, is what I'm saying, because we can actually determine economic development, and that's my concern also. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
Come on, jump in. The water's fine.
Connie, you got any comments? No one has any more questions or comments?
One thing I'd like to ask, if I'd rather have a email copy of this rather than a printed off copy, because I'd really like to sit down and study it,
I'll be glad to
if we can do that.
Yeah.
Mr. Wood?
The only other comment I was going to make, Mr. Chairman, is I think when we invite Dewberry back when they make their final report, and I think 3 of you are on the Wayne County Development Alliance, you might want to give some consideration to whether or not we want to invite the Alliance members to come in, because your points are well made. This is an economic development issue. And I think it might be good to have them for that presentation and part of that discussion.
We can do that. Any other comments? Go ahead.
So one thing, the maps are draft, just, I mean, whether you
I
finish
saw it, but
the final QA, they may change a little, just so you're
It
aware.
is a work in progress, so if you would kind of limit where you share it.
I was just, like, on the one on 13, just got such a big area of future economic development is in red, and I'm just, in that being in my district, I'm thinking about the economic development that'll take place there and what they were talking about, and just, I need to look at it real close. Thank you.
Mr. Dodd.
One final comment. You know, you could solve a lot of our heartburn here if you, when you come back in 60 days, that you bring with you the necessary application for grants in order to provide the funding for all
Okay.
this.
It may impact you.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you. Item number 4, I think, is next. Mr. Wood?
Yes, sir, I lost my place, bear with me just a minute. Item number 4 is a motion to approve the purchase of solid waste road tractor and dump trailer for the sale of solid waste surplus equipment. I've given you a brief memo recommending that you approve this. The request is actually from Tim Rogers, and behind my memo is his memo. Basically, what he's saying is he's got a couple pieces of equipment he needs to surplus, and he's asking for permission to take the money from what he surpluses and buy a used road tractor and a used dump trailer. And the thing I want to point out also is, as y'all know, we have that new dental clinic that's mobile. We were looking at possibly contracting with a private company to haul that periodically to the different schools, because you remember that's a pediatric dental unit. And with this, we would be able to use this truck. It'll be under the purview of solid waste, but he would work out a schedule with Mr. Madden at the health department, and they would move his trailer for him as well. So there's no need to duplicate that with another truck.
Mr. Dodd?
Am I of the impression that the sale of the two pieces of surplus equipment would actually be sold? How is that going to be disposed of?
We usually do it through an auction. A lot of times we'll do it through Gov Deals.
Oh, okay.
We seem to get the best deals there.
Okay. So they haven't already sold the product?
No, they're getting ready to, and he just wanted permission from you to, going forward, that he would be able to do this.
And then once he sells, he's going to take those proceeds and buy some other equipment?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
And he does say in his last sentence that he's certain that we can do this using only the revenue from the sale of used equipment. So he feels like it should generate sufficient revenue to do it.
And another real saving also is him being able to move that dental lab around, because my understanding is it's only moved, whatever,
About every 2 or 3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks, and,
Right.
and Tim can work out a schedule to do that. And it takes a lot of liability off of the county for having to go out and get a private contractor to move that around and all. We've got county equipment, hooked to county equipment, and that would relieve a lot of liability.
That's right.
Excuse me, is that dental unit ready to go yet?
Yes, I was going to make that,
I'll leave it
but
at
I'll go ahead and tell you. Yes, actually, they have finally, I think, gotten all of the upgrades done that needed to be done, and it's ready to go actually in service, but they're going to wait until the first of the year to put it in service. They've already got the schools selected and ready to actually have that in service.
I'm ready to see it out.
Believe me, I've been pressing on that. I said, my goodness, guys, what is the holdup?
Yeah.
Do I have a form of a motion that we approve?
Move to approve.
I have a motion on the floor that we approve the purchase of solid waste road tractor and dump trailer from sales of solid waste surplus equipment. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. 5, Mr. Wood?
Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned at the 8 o'clock session, what we're doing here is you have approved the schematic design for the jail at the last meeting. So they're moving forward with the full design, and they'll be back to you with that. And then once you have the full design, you'll have the specifications, contract documents ready to bid out. And so essentially, we're getting very close to going to construction in the spring. We have some cost already for the architect. We'll have some additional costs for some of the engineering studies that we're doing as well and some surveying. Our plan, as we talked about at the last meeting, is to borrow the money for the jail, and then we will be using portions of the $5 million you set aside for the jail to be paying some of that debt service in the first 4 years. And then you remember the 5th year out, we have about $1.1 million of debt service that will be totally paid off, and at that point, it will pay the debt service. So what we're trying to do here is, state law says that if we want to spend the money in advance and then reimburse ourselves from the proceeds of the bonds, you have to pass a resolution saying that's your intent to do that. And that's what this resolution is. So that these costs that we're fronting on the architect, on some of the engineering services and all that, can be reimbursed from those bond proceeds. Because our intent is to spread the cost out over 20 years for the whole project.
You need a motion?
I need a motion, then we'll discuss it.
Mr. Chairman? I move that we approve a resolution declaring the official intent of the Board of Commissioners to reimburse expenditures by the county for a new misdemeanor detention facility from the proceeds of a tax-exempt financing.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion?
Just one comment.
Yes, sir.
I see it's got $10 million in it. I hope we don't spend it.
I hope not either.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And let me address that is, my hope is we're closer to the 9 million figure.
Yeah.
The reason we put 10 is if it does go higher, we want it to be covered to where we can get reimbursed. But we don't expect it to go that high.
See, only in, I'm sorry,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, only in government do you actually signal to the world how much you're willing to go up to. I just don't understand that about government.
Well-
Generally, if I go to buy something, I don't want to tell anybody what I'm willing to go to. I generally try to underbid.
But remember, we're not going to be negotiating the price. We're going to be, if you bid it out, when you bid it out, you'll have the competition.
Okay,
And so they'll have to sharpen their pencil to win the bid.
okay.
And I think we've already proven that we're pretty good at getting them to sharpen their pencils.
I think last meeting,
We beat architects up pretty good.
last meeting, Mr. Daugherty, if you'll recall, you told him that.
What about if we change that 10 million to 8 million?
Hey, man. Look at George, he's turning red.
Oh, boy.
Okay, I have
Just kidding.
we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? Do we need to read this resolution? It's kind of lengthy. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
If no other discussion, all in favor of this resolution, show sign of right hand. Motion carries. Item number 7, I think, Mr. Daugherty, you have something that you
I
wanted
thought you were gonna
to
do
share.
it. Oh, yeah, I'll be glad to share that now.
Real short budget amendment.
We got budget amendments first, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had penciled in under the, Ms. Holt, budget amendment.
Good morning. I just wanted to make a comment right before I started on budget amendments. During the meeting this morning, I did receive an email from Pikeville, from Michael Hunt, Town Administrator at Pikeville, and he said at the meeting last night, they did state that they will be applying for the $75,000 of economic development money. So That was discussed earlier in the meeting, so they did make that decision last night. So we'll be leaving that on the schedule. Okay, your first budget amendment is number 153 for the Health Department, $201 to reappropriate prior year grant funds received for Parents Mini Grant that were not spent as of June 30th, 2014. $201 grant funds.
Mr. Chairman, I move adoption of Budget Amendment 153.
Have a motion on the floor, we adopt Budget Amendment 153. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor, show sign of right hand on Budget Amendment 153. Motion carries.
Your next two budget amendments, number 156 and 160, are for Services on Aging. Number 156, Services on Aging, $4,000 to appropriate donations received for the Senior Center. Number 160, $15,573 to anticipate and appropriate funds from Eastern Carolina Council for Senior Center general funding.
Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve.
I have a motion that we approve Budget Amendment 156 and 160. Any discussion?
And 60.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're together. Any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor of Budget Amendment 156 and 160, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
The next two budget amendments, number 158 and 162, are for the schools, but I'm going to take them one at a time. Number 158 is for $1.2 million to appropriate sales tax projected for Grantham and Spring Creek projects that will not be reimbursed until the 15-16 fiscal year. So what we are doing is we are using some of capital project funds, moving it to this capital school project fund, the $1.2 million. We did not borrow the $1.2 million when we were loaned the money. And so we've got to upfront the $1.2 million, and then we asked for reimbursement in July of 2015 back on this money, and we'll be getting it back in the next fiscal year. At that time, I will move those funds back to a capital project fund.
Something similar to the resolution that we passed earlier.
It is, it is.
That's why I would never be an accountant.
Pleasure of the board on Budget Amendment 158.
Move adoption.
Have a motion on the floor, we adopt Budget Amendment 158. Any discussion? We are going to get this 1.2 million back.
Parts of it, or less or more, I can't tell you.
If you recall, Wayne, that was the architect's estimation
Right.
of what it would be.
Well, then that disguised the limit.
We're not counting on this to be
You did
loaded
not have
funds,
to
are
say
we?
that.
No, it's sales tax. So
Sales tax.
you can go by the, all kidding aside, you can go by the contracted amount and multiply by
Right,
the.
it's an estimate, but hopefully we'll be close to it.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor, show sign of right hand for Budget Amendment 158. Motion carries unanimous.
Okay, number 162 is also for the schools. It's for $54,545.92. And it's to appropriate funds for removable of unsuitable soil and replace with suitable soil at Grantham and Spring Creek. And I wanted to break that down by school for you. Grantham is requiring $49,920, and Spring Creek is requiring $4,625.92. And we did agree in the negotiations with the school that the county would pick up this cost.
If y'all remember, we took out, they had a contingency in there for bad soils, and we said we'll take it out. If there's any bad soils, we'll pay only what it requires.
And who determined there was bad soils?
They do.
They who?
Well, basically, the contractor goes in, if he hits it, then he goes to the architect. The architect makes a recommendation to the school board on that. And the school board also has David Lassiter, who's over their facilities, checking those kinds of things also. So ultimately, it starts with the contractor, who then files for a change order for that amount. And it works up through the chain of command on that.
Question.
Oh,
So,
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, is this the last soil change order we expect, or?
I don't know the answer to that. But as they get far, typically you run into it when you're doing the foundation work. So if they get through the foundation pouring and everything, and this is all they've hit, then that should be the end of it.
Would not our environmental health and inspections people from the county, would they not be involved in some of this?
Not really. Our inspections people would be involved, making sure that the footings are solid. So you're right in that regard. So yes, they would from the foundation permitting process. You're right, they would. I was thinking more of when you were talking about percolation tests, but no, you're right. On the foundation, our building inspection people would be involved in that.
And I do want to point out that in part of those negotiations, I forget the figure that they had established as a contingency to be used. $2 million was established to provide for unsuitable soils if they occurred. And we took that out and said the county would just assume liability. And right now, we're looking at $54,000. So kind of look at it from the standpoint of a 1.95.
And let me double check that figure. I'm thinking
it was a
2,
huge amount.
but it was a huge amount.
It was.
Let me double check that.
So you have to look at it from the standpoint, it really actually saved us a lot of money by taking that out and assuming the responsibility. It is what it is.
Pleasure to the board.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion on the floor, we approve budget amendment number 162. Any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Your next budget amendment is number 161. It is for central services, $34,240 to adjust indirect costs for the fiscal year 14-15 per cost allocation plan. This is the net effect for all of them. And I come to you once a year with this, and this is where we allocate the cost out. So, and just like for the finance office, the manager's office, the board of commissioners office, building grounds, to other funds that use our services. And this is the cost. It goes through a cost allocation plan based on square footage, number of employees, the cost that's spread out. And this, at the time we adopt the budget, we don't have the study back. So we use the prior year cost in the original budget and go back and adjust when the study comes in. And this is the money that is actually moved back and forth during the fiscal year.
I'm looking at, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at a total here, and we're looking at about $40,000, a little less than $40,000. Is that correct?
$34,240 is the net effect. Some of them we're adding to and some of them we're taking away from. So you have a net effect of $34,240. Now let me explain to you, like if the solid waste department, their costs go up from what we used as the prior year cost, then the solid waste department is going to give the general fund that money, additional money back. And so what we do is we reduce expenditures in the general fund by the amount that the solid waste gave us, and the expenditures go up in the solid waste fund. And that is happening in each of these areas, including those that can actually get grant funds back. So it is, the effect to your general fund is good.
And Mr. Wood, you're satisfied with whatever formula y'all are using to come up with these figures?
Yeah, it's right. By law, we have to do an indirect cost allocation study every year to do that, to justify those costs, because as Pam said, a lot of this is using federal and state money for various things like DSS, public health, and all that. So there's an obvious opportunity for counties to pad their general fund at the expense of those state funds, and they don't want to see that. So they want to see that you've done a legitimate cost allocation study to prove it's legitimate. And so that's basically what we do every year for that.
Well, and yeah, I just think these are kind of low. It looks like they would be a little higher. From the standpoint of the services that we're providing.
This is just the adjustment to what we had in the original.
Oh, just the adjustment.
Yes,
so this is not all of it.
In the original budget, I used the figures that were provided last year.
Oh, okay.
And so when I get the study in, this is only adjusting the amount. Yes, it is. It's a lot larger figures.
See, if you ask enough questions, you finally get the right answer to where you're being Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Pleasure to board on budget amendment 161.
So moved.
Have a motion on the floor, we adopt budget 161. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Number 167 is for the county manager's office, total $79,133 to appropriate funds for the assistant county manager position for the fiscal year 14-15, which goes December through June.
It's gonna be kinda hard not to approve this one, we've already hired a man.
Well, we didn't say we'd pay him.
And benefits. This number includes benefits.
But y'all understand what we're doing here. That budget was in the OES budget, is the money sitting there. We're simply moving it out of that budget over into the county manager's budget, because that's where he'll be paid out of.
I make a motion, we accept budget amendment 167. Any discussion?
Not gonna let us pick on him very much.
Okay, I'm gonna do 169 and 170 together.
Wait, 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 wait,
Okay,
wait on
I'm
this.
moving fast on it.
Let's do pay the guy.
All in favor of budget amendment 167, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
Okay, 169 and 170, I'm gonna do together. They're both for the library. 169 is $286 to appropriate library donations for local author program advertising. Number 170 is to anticipate and appropriate additional library state aid grant funds of $7,555.
Motion to board.
Motion to approve number 169 and 170, Mr.
I
Chairman.
have a motion on the floor, we adopt budget amendment 169 and 170. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make a comment that that's good news on the state aid, because originally that was being cut back.
That's what.
And so they came back, the state legislature came back and somehow found some additional money, so we're getting some additional state aid money there.
Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor of budget amendment 169 and 170, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Okay, number 174 and 175 are for the sheriff. We'll be doing those together. 174, $9,055.40 to anticipate and appropriate seized property funds. And 175, $13,950.30 to anticipate and appropriate controlled substance funds.
Pleasure to board.
Motion to approve 174, 175 is read.
Have a motion on the floor, we accept budget amendment 174 and 175. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor of budget amendment 174 and 175, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
Number 172 is for the radio system, $10,000 to appropriate additional funds needed for the tower site.
I make a motion that we approve budget number 172. Any discussion?
Just a question, what additional things are going on there? Just an update.
Mr. Wood, you have to answer that.
And I'm drawing a blank too.
Purchase price.
It's the purchase price of
the western side.
That's right.
Okay.
Purchase price of the western site.
Well, I hope we bought the thing because we're already erecting the tower.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes,
We have.
yes,
We better approve this.
It's yeah.
the deed's recorded. Any discussion? No other discussion. All in favor of budget amendment 172, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
Number 182 is for $263,028.36 to appropriate funds for the payoff of the loan for Pinewood Fire Department. The revenue that we're using as to support the payoff of the debt is the sale of the assets, which I anticipate to be much more than this.
So we need to go ahead and do this so we can do the sale, pay off the loan, and be done with it at closing. And we need to pay the loan off at closing. So that's why we need to have this one done now.
Mr. Chairman, I move adoption of 182.
I have a motion on the floor. We adopt budget amendment 182. Any discussion?
By chance, do y'all know which truck this is?
The biggest.
The big one.
It was an original $300,000, a little over $300,000 loan.
Joe, it's the Mormon.
Ford. The engine Ford.
Well, if it's, the brand is Mormon, I mean, that's all I know, but that's the one. Yes, sir.
And the process of selling this is gonna be how?
auction?
If you recall, what we had said at the last meeting was we're going to have an auction only for our departments within the county. Anything that doesn't sell after that, then we'll probably just put on Gov Deals and
Are you
open it
gonna
up.
do a sealed bid though?
I think we're gonna do an auction like we did the farm leases. Let them come in. But we haven't determined that. If you've got some ideas on that, I'd be happy to talk.
Let's give some thought to that.
Let's give a lot of thought to that one.
Okay, all right. But we were restricting it, we were gonna restrict it to our departments within the county first.
Yes, I agree.
For a time period, and we
Right.
have not set that time period.
Right.
But the
But the method has not been determined yet, so if you've got some heartburn about that, we need to talk about it.
I think we just need to discuss it.
we
Okay.
need to discuss it
All right.
some, and also just for y'all's information, since Pinewood, they are not responding to calls now, that equipment has been added to our county insurance, and no one is to move it unless it's an authorized county employee from either Mr. Wood or the assistant county manager.
That's right.
I have a motion on the floor for 182. Any other discussion? All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
The deed to the facility has been recorded. You own that, and that's being insured by.
On the
Okay.
Pinewood,
Pinewood, the facility, the building.
And you have a walk-on budget amendment for the Health Department for $13,837 to appropriate additional funds awarded women's and children's health immunization. Funds must be spent by December 31, 2014.
wow, they better get them spending it. Mr. Chairman, I move adoption 187.
I have a motion on the floor. We adopt budget amendment 187. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
That concludes the budget amendments.
Sorry, I almost skipped you, Ms. Pam.
That's okay.
Item number 7, I think Mr. Doherty's got something that he wants to take care of in reference to Pinewood Fire Department.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You know, as we all are aware, Pinewood Volunteer Fire Department has closed. And sometimes it's difficult to put things in words, and someone has done that for us, and I feel like that I need to read some excerpts from yesterday's News Argus editorial. The headline on that says, "Hero's Legacy. Pinewood Fire Department closes, but volunteers' example will always inspire." The community lost a part of its history today. The Pinewood Volunteer Fire Department, which was first opened in 1959, has served the people of the northeast corner of Goldsboro for decades. And today it closed its doors officially for the last time. There are many reasons to mark this day, but the least of which is that there has been generations of grandfathers, fathers, and sons, and perhaps even a daughter or two who have devoted themselves to making sure when an alarm sounds, a firefighter answers. The problem is that it is expensive to run a volunteer fire department, and even more expensive to be a volunteer firefighter. There was no question that at some point there would be a need to merge these efforts with other area fire departments. And so we say goodbye, and more importantly, thank you to the volunteers who have kept that fire department staffed and ready for all these years. And those who wore the uniforms were not the only ones who sacrificed. We also owe a debt of gratitude to the wives, to the mothers and children of those volunteers who watched their loved ones leap up from dinner, run off in the middle of the night, who sat worried until they came back home. They shared their loved ones with us because they were serving a greater good. The truth is, there is nothing more selfless than someone who is willing to risk his or her own life to service of others. They are required to keep their skills up to date and to be physically able to carry a hose and to run through a burning building to rescue its inhabitants. They see all sorts of tragedy. It is not emotionally easy to be a firefighter, and it is even harder to keep focused on the good when you are surrounded by so much loss. But there are the high points too, the lives that have been saved because of a fire crew, and the small gestures like a family who might have lost everything, but for those family photos or beloved pets survived because of a firefighter cared enough to save them. The Pinewood Volunteer Fire Department family has been part of this heroic crew for decades, and to them we say, job well done.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty.
Thank
And I think that it was well said, and I've already told Steve to thank Renee for it, because that was kind of a goosebump article if you're in the fire service and really have ever been helped by a fire department. Thank you, Mr. Doherty. County managers.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a few comments. One is, of course, over the course of the next 2 weeks, we'll be having a series of meetings with our department heads that are being affected by the bringing on of the assistant county manager. We've already met and determined what departments he'll be overseeing and what ones I'll continue to retain. And then we're going to meet one-on-one with each department head, because I want to have a good orientation session between them, myself, and Mr. Burns, and then we'll hand off those departments to him. So we'll be in that transition period, like I said, for about 2 weeks or so. But I wanted you to be aware of that. On December 9, we'll have the farm lease auction. This is for those last 2 pieces of property that we re-advertised on. Wanted to remind you of that. That's at 3 p.m. So if any of you want to come here and observe that, you're welcome to do that. That's on the Bryan Boulevard property and the Goldsboro Bridge site. WCDA annual board retreat is going to be in the early part of December. I think it's the 9th or 10th, something like that. And then on December 9, just to remind you, we have the employees' Christmas luncheon. And obviously, all of you are invited to that, so I wanted to remind you of that, encourage you to attend that. We're continuing to work on a number of projects. I won't bore you with the details here right now, but we're continuing to make good progress on a number of areas. One in particular is the radio project. We feel like that's coming along very well at this point, and I think we'll be on schedule as we had talked about in April. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The Alliance retreat is on the 10th.
The 10th.
Yes. Okay. Commissioners' comments? Mr. Bell?
Mr. Chairman, I only attended 2 committee meetings, that one with juvenile justice and the other one with East Point. And neither one of those committees had anything that I think I should report at this time. It was just routine type business, but they both are doing well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gurley?
I attended the Goldsboro Travel and Tourism meeting last week, and Commissioner Pate was gracious enough to attend with me. And they have a lot of things going on, a lot of upcoming events, especially next spring. And Bill and I were talking, we asked Betsy Roseman, the director of the Tourism Council, and Rick Sumner, the chair, to maybe come in, hopefully in January, do a presentation to the board, kind of show what kind of economic impact that tourism has for Goldsboro and Wayne County. And then in attendance at Pharmaceutical Week last week, there certainly was a packed house there, and talking to Kevin Johnson, he had to turn people away, which was good, had much interest. But I was delighted to see the cooperation and network between Corporate Extension and the Wayne County Library, and the network and the resources they're using together to create and build and preserve the farming and agriculture community history. And my appreciation to Renee Carey, as y'all mentioned earlier about the news article on Pinewood Fire Department, I appreciate that too. It's a well-deserving article. And to Mr. Burns, welcome to Wayne County. And I understand we got a pilot to the boot, so we're happy to see you here. And Mr. Wood, I'll just ask you to some point in time, maybe you can comment on the Bryan Boulevard area. I'm getting some phone calls from there. Kind of give us a little update in the near future, maybe get staff to come in and give us an update. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I plan on trying to have that by the second meeting in January. I know
Okay.
y'all had asked us to look at that, and so I'll try to have it by then.
Okay, I'll be glad to pass that along. That's all, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay. I need to back up just a minute also. Mr. Wood, was Mr. Bell gonna make a motion on the purchase of a piece of property?
We want to talk about that a little bit, but I think, yeah, you were.
We
talked about it. Yeah, we did talk.
You want to do it now, or you want to wait?
I think now would be fine.
Okay, then I'll make a motion that we make the purchase of the land adjacent to the county-owned property on North William Street, which would expand our total amount of land to what, about 18 acres?
I think it'd be about 14. We have
14
about
acres.
10 point something, so it'd get us a little over 14.
That will give us the necessary room that we need to do the construction that we have down there.
That's correct, and would give us some room for an expansion as well.
Right.
So
I
keep
have
us
a-
from being landlocked.
And associated budget.
Yes.
Purchase price is $135,000.
Which is a real good deal, I think.
I have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, now back to Commissioner's comments. Mr. Pate.
Since they just distracted me down here, I'm not sure what exactly Joe said down there, so, but I'll start what I got. A bunch of us were at the Seven Springs Parade and had a really good time there, and I think even county manager was there, and I appreciate him coming. Same day, we had a Carl Best group meeting at Craig West Farm. That was well attended. A lot of larger farmers who had been through the program were there, and I got a chance to meet some of the older farmers that I did not know, and I really enjoyed that. Started cutting Farm City. We had a DSS board meeting last week, myself and Mr. Mayo, and one of the good things is the first time it's been in a while that they don't have any openings over there. Well, they didn't as of last week anyway. But, and you've heard me talk about that in the past. Sometimes some of the salaries are low, and it's difficult, especially those in the administrative positions, to turn down other jobs in the community that may pay better. And one thing that has helped out tremendously is the HR department doing the orientations on a weekly basis. And I want to thank you for making that happen. It really made a difference. They were talking about some case management tools because they still have, issues with NC-FAST, even though it's better than it was. But there was some case management tools they were looking at purchasing or being part of a group. But at this point, it's so expensive, I don't see how we're going to, in Wayne County, afford it, because it'd be like $5,000 per user. And I said, whoa, so we need to back off on that. And the state may turn around and say you can't use it anyway. So those who go out and buy that are kind of going out on a limb. The fraud/program integrity training is coming back up. The state has decided that they want to focus on that again. The focus has been on NC-FAST so much, this has been kind of on the back burner. And I asked them the other day, I said, what is your backlog? They said at least 2 years. So I compared that to my old job when we were like 2 years behind too, so it's not that unusual. Disturbing, yes, but not unusual. And I did attend the tourism board, and some of the economic impact stuff that he was talking about, unless you go to that board, you don't realize the kind of money that's brought in through tourism. The revenue through August is up at 1.4 million, 1.5 up from last year at 1.4, so things are moving forward. Tax collections through August for the city of Goldsboro was $421,417. So it brings in a lot of money. People just don't realize it. And those people do work hard trying to organize events to bring into town. He covered some of them, and we got a number of them that are coming up. And of course, they mentioned that Wings Over Wayne, May 16th, 17th, they're planning for that, but I think that'll happen. There's a huge YMCA event. They're going to bring in swimmers from a multi-state event of 800 swimmers, so with all the families, that'll be a lot of money brought to Wayne County. And if we can get an update of what parades and where am I supposed to be next, because they're coming up.
Your next parade, sir,
50 million state
Yeah.
tourists.
Saturday.
is Saturday. You've got Mount Olive line up at 9, Fremont line up at noon, and Goldsboro line up at 3.
3. And I see that Eureka's back in the game. That's the
Eureka is on the 14th
14th.
It's a Sunday.
at 2, which is a Sunday. Pikeville's is the 7th, which is also a Sunday. Both of them is at 2 p.m.
And I'll thank Milford for our slate. It really looks good.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah, it did a good job. Missing the snow.
Is that all your
I'm
comments?
through, yeah.
You're through, Mr. Mayor?
Can I be last today, Mr. Chairman?
Huh?
I'd like to be last today, can I?
Okay, sure. Mr. Doherty?
I want to take my time. This is my second year today. My second anniversary. And I want to thank the chairman and the vice chairman for keeping the board focused over the past year. Our meetings seem to be more productive while reducing the time for each meeting. Our board, whether Democrat or Republican, works well to get things done. That's what it's really all about. As we look to Washington, we see firsthand how partisan bickering prevents a governmental body from handling the people's business. Most people in Wayne are interested in results, and I am pleased to point to this board's many accomplishments. With so many votes on so many issues, it is a great accomplishment to realize that after all the discussions, all the debates, this board voted unanimously 97% of the time. Wouldn't it be nice if Congress could boast of the same accomplishment? I want to thank my fellow commissioners for their votes and support on some issues that were dear to me. One of those was approving the contract for improvements on the county communication systems, including the purchase of land for 2 new communication towers. Approved and authorized a supplemental agreement for the economic impact study for Highway 70 and Interstate 795 between NCDOT and the County of Wayne. And the reason that was important is that we have to justify the economic benefit for those funds to be spent to improve 70 and 795 to interstate quality. We approved the resignation agreement of the county manager by unanimous vote. We authorized the Wayne County Board of Education to move forward on the renovation projects on Wayne County Public Schools Capital Improvement Plan totaling $12.3 million. We unanimously hired George Wood as interim county manager and later as permanent county manager. Some of these things have already been said. Approved the appointment of Larry Pierce as Wayne County Sheriff. Selected Mosley Architects for the Wayne County Detention Center. Approved and authorized the contract with Southern Health Partners for inmate care. It saved the county $35,000 annually while providing more than twice the hourly coverage. It's good when you can do something and save money and get twice the benefit. We approved by unanimous vote the 14-15 budget after cutting $650,000 of additional spending over and beyond the county manager's recommendation. Provided a $500 bonus to employees and retained the current tax rate. Approved recommendations for specific alternatives for the route of extension I-795 to I-40. We approved the financing and construction, finally, of not one, but two new energy-efficient middle schools. That has taken out of the Wayne County School Capital Improvement Plan. Of 7 items, we have approved 5 of those. That's a major accomplishment. And last, I do want to mention that the mobile dental lab, which was approved by this board a year ago, has actually been acquired. It has been upgraded and should be seeing children as of the first of the year. I just want to thank this board for their help in getting those things accomplished. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Mr. Camardi?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I would like to say I had a couple of conflicts with wages and the library boards in the most recent weeks. But I want to say something about the library. At the tail end of our previous meeting, we went to the Mount Olive Library and had a tour given to us by the a contingency or the library director for the county and other folk who are in various roles countywide. And for the public, please let me say to you, not just for the Mount Olive Library, but for all libraries, there are some very interesting, highly technical benefits for being involved in the library environment. One young man let us know that through the iPads and this latest electronic media, we can just sit at home and read books that the library provides for us. They, in concert with Wayne Community College, offer various other things related to small businesses and making that connection for people who need that service, applications, resumes, things that you don't know about the computers that you have at home. Like me, I'm going to schedule a time to go down there and take a most recent purchase so that they can teach some parts of my family how to use it. I probably will never learn it. But there are great things in the library, and I just wanted to first thank the commissioners for agreeing to go to the Mount Olive Library at the end of the last meeting, and we can have a chance to hear a absolutely wonderful presentation. Second thing that caused a conflict with one of my regular meetings was I went to Hot Topics at Lane Tree and was able to hear a presentation by our current superintendent of the North Carolina school system, Dr. Jude Atkinson. And just as a byproduct of that, when I was a little bit younger, 84, 85, 86, I had an opportunity to serve with her at the State Department of Public Instruction, of which she was the director of vocational ed for a time before she moved on to to add leadership to the entire educational arena. The reason that I bring up her name, just not to show that I know her, but she spoke about the current issues in education, to include Common Core. And there's been a lot of discussion about Common Core over time, and I'm not worthy or knowledgeable enough to discuss the ins and outs of it. But the essence of this, and she gave her presentation, I took an opportunity to ask her this question at the tail end. And she was able to expound on some of the benefits of the Common Core curriculum. Listen to this. You have a young person growing up in Virginia, and he moves to Kentucky. Through that program, you should be able to leave where you were in Virginia and pick up where you are in Kentucky. Especially it's important for our military because they're moving around the world. And if you are in, you should be in any curriculum that is sponsored and directed by the United States, you should be able to go from one area of the nation or the world and move your education in a lockstep, so that where you left off in Virginia or Kentucky, you could pick it up in Idaho or Nevada or New Mexico. And that's the kind of thing that she talked about, and I just would want to give a shout out to that concept. And I know that the legislators in Raleigh are wanting to tweak it, but they did have what I think was the value of judgment to not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, except they said they're going to study it for a year, which means if I think they do a good job, they will be able to keep the good parts of that and maybe tweak the parts that's less desirable. So I'll conclude that part of my comments relating to education. It has already been alluded to, but I want to give just a little bit more attention to that. We lost a great community leader about a week ago in George Carnegie. We all don't belong to the same political party that he did, or some of you, but but I just want to say,
Careful now.
right, I just want to say that I, as a young person in the public service arena, you always able to go to him and get good advice. And I believe he spread that advice across all parties without any reservation about giving you what I think his best thinking was, and as a tribute to him, but more than that, a tribute to his family and the people of Southern Wayne County and all over Wayne County and North Carolina, and especially probably, and I'm gonna toss this in, to the University of Mount Olive. Great friend to them, a great person who was futuristic looking for the things that he thought that would benefit the University of Mount Olive. And I, along with all of them, have lost a great community leader, and I just wanted to say hats off to him. That's it. Mr.
Thank you. I'll keep my comments brief, because most of the events that has already been mentioned, I attended what I could, like the Seven Springs Parade and the Car Best and several more, but that doesn't really matter. But I would like to mention, like Mr. Camardi said, about the passing of Mr. George Carnegie. If he were sitting here, I'd say the same thing. There was issues that me and him did not agree on, but that's beside the point. Mr. Carnegie attributed a lot to this county that politics did not play into. I mean, as far as health care and other things, he did contribute a lot that politics did not play into, and I think he needed to be commended for that. There's one more thing, and I'm like George, my mind's gone blank. If it comes to me, I'll mention it after Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I wanted to go over a couple of things. I'm a member of the East Carolina RPO, and we are a quasi-government transportation organization serving, in case the public don't know, Carteret, Craven, Duplin, Greene, Jones, Lenoir, Onslow, Pamlico, and Wayne counties. So that's a huge area. Also attended the Seven Springs Parade, has been mentioned in the Carl Best leadership. That was a good barbecue, by the way.
Yes, it was.
And also at the Wayne County Social Services Board meeting, I wanted to point out that the state will be having program integrity training, which is fraud. That's a technical term for fraud. For the first time in many years in December of 2014. Can you believe that it's been, nobody knows how many years since they've had fraud training? And that's one of the big issues that we're concerned about. This is a direct result of the federal USDA management evaluation. I also attended the Farm City banquet, and also, as I did in my invocation, part of the George Carnegie Remembrance Service. Yeah, we didn't agree on a lot of things, but he certainly cared for this county and for the people in it. In closing, I wanted to, since we're being so honest today, this whole board, as to what we've accomplished, my take is that it's not how much you accomplish. It's not that at all. It's the path you take to get there. And that's one of the things that I question about some of the things that this board has done. For example, today I want to recognize a commissioner that is well thought of in this county, and I want to give him thanks, and that is Commissioner, former Commissioner of District 1, Commissioner Andy Anderson. Andy was a go-getter. People would tell you that if you didn't want it done, you better not ask Andy, because he'd get it done. I've had legislatures, George Holding, I've had legislatures tell me and congressmen tell me that they got tired of seeing him come. He would go beat on their door. And that's the kind of commissioner that Mr. Andy Anderson was. Andy was instrumental, of course, as all of us know, in transportation in Wayne County. He was responsible, a huge responsibility for I-795, and that's why his name is up on 795. He was also very active in the Highway 70 bypass. He was really interested in transportation. But his latest is that we just had the groundbreaking on November 6th of the East Carolina State Veteran Cemetery. He worked endlessly on getting this done. He made, I don't know how many trips to Washington, D.C. to get this veteran cemetery a reality. And of course, you can't think about Andy Anderson without thinking about Waynesboro Park. Waynesboro Park he's just done a tremendous work out, and still is, by the way. I asked him, he comes by my office once in a while, I asked him, I said, you know, Andy, you're working harder now than you did when you were commissioner. He said, yes, I am. But Mr. Anderson served on this board for 19 years, and he's to be commended. But one of the things I want to bring up about Mr. Anderson is that in the 19 years, he accomplished everything. This is just a sampling of what I know. Andy Anderson did a lot more for this county and this state than we'll ever know. But he sat on this board for 19 years, and he accomplished all this and was never in that 19 years chair or vice chair. He accomplished it based on who he was and his fortitude and his agility to get it done. So I want to bring this up today that former Andy Anderson County Commissioner should be commended and still is very active in the affairs of Wayne County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Well said, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And I did think of what I couldn't think of a while ago. As y'all know, we have a radio meeting every Thursday until we get this enhancement in place. We did not have a meeting last Thursday because of Thanksgiving, but this coming Thursday's meeting should be, have a lot of information will be presented to us. And Tommy, if you could be at that meeting Thursday at 11 o'clock. George, you're welcome also, but you know, we can bring Tommy up to snuff on what's going on with the radio system. And that's all I have. With Mr. Gurley.
I would thank Marcia for your plate of goodies. And for me to sit here for 4 hours and look at this, it's kind of hard on a big boy, especially when he's hungry, but thank you, Marcia.
And we do need to go back into closed session. You want to go eat first or come back, or?
Let's go into closed session.
Go into closed session?
Want to knock it out?
Okay. Do I have a motion we go back in closed session?
For the same purposes that you went in before.
For the same purpose.